Hi.
What's up?
Do you know what we're watching today? We're back doing more
Dipper?
Warhammer stuff, but let her eat. Hi, Dipper. Yeah, you're really liking that 4K camera, aren't you?
What's up?
Oh, you poor thing. Do you know what we're watching today?
More Warhammer stuff?
Absolutely, we're watching more Warhammer stuff.
Hi, Dipper.
You're gonna learn a bit of the timeline now. We learned the Space Marines last time. The Space Marines are cool, but the Space Marines don't make a lot of sense if you don't, know about Warhammer. And actually, I do want to talk about that because someone asked me about that in the comments. They said, the timeline's usually what you want to start with, but hey, solid choice anyway. Only reason I went with the Space Marines, and I said it in the comments, they're the poster child of Warhammer, they're the most recognizable, and they're the most talked about, too. So, if you know the Space Marines, learning everything else is kinda easy. Yeah. I'm hoping it's not too loud. I did not do an audio check on this beforehand, so oh my god. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. It would appear Bricky has gone on an early vacation. Oh my god. Okay. Welcome back, Brick. You ready to do this?
Yes. I apologize for eating a snack.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
Well, don't worry. You guys go grab a snack and a drink, because this is going to be well over a 2-hour video. So, lock in.
I apologize for eating a snack.
Okay. Actually, don't lock in. Don't worry. Grab a snack. Grab a book. Let this play in the background while you're not paying attention to your Zoom meeting for work. Okay.
Or school if you have a virtual day today because it's snowing.
Grab a book. Do you think everybody lives in Pennsylvania?
Could be snowing in other states. New Jersey's getting snow too.
Okay.
Or school if you have a virtual day.
If you
today,
like
'cause it's
snow,
snowing. Comment a snowflake.
do you think everybody lives in Pennsylvania?
Could be snowing in other states.
There you go. Comment a
snow too.
snowflake. Okay. Let's get into this, shall we, Brick?
Comment a snowflake.
In the kind brightness of the far past, there was no war. Our galaxy was, for a long time, fairly empty and quiet. The first known species to appear during this time are known only as the Old Ones, cosmic entities that traveled across the galaxy with ease and seeded life through the stars. Shortly thereafter, a new species began to arise. The Necron-Tyr. Evolving under the harshness of a devastatingly powerful star, the short-lived and irradiated Necron-Tyr try to find the secret to eternal life and to be freed from their terrible existence. As they expand through the stars, they find the Old Ones, and they plead to them to share the secrets of the universe and grant them purchase from their short and painful existence. The Old Ones respond with a lull and a lamau, and with their immense power, they force them back to their
Hold on. What's going on here, Brick?
homeworld. The Necron-Tyr, filled with rage and hatred, make it their duty to get revenge on the Old Ones. A revenge that would come swiftly as a chance encounter with other gods gave them a solution. These other gods were known as the Catan, a race of highly powerful star-consuming entities. Do not fear, young mortals, for we, the Catan, will provide you with the immortality you seek. Come now, won't you shake a poor sinner's hand? Quoted from Nephetron, the Deceiver. The Necron-Tyr accepted the Catan's offer of immortality, but believe it or not, this turned out to be a ruse. A trick. The Catan crafted gigantic furnaces and began the process of biotransference. The Necron-Tyr...
Yeah, so actually a funny little... I'm not gonna keep this hat on the whole video. Funny little thing about the Necron-Tyr.
Here's a mouse.
Cool. Yeah, so actually a funny little... I'm not gonna leave this hat on. Funny little thing about the Necron. The Necron tier were the most pathetic and sad species at like the start of all this. Their whole thing, the Necron tier, was like there was only one thing that was certain in their life. They would get cancer and die. At like the start of all this. That was like a common thing among the Necron tier. Like, they would just get cancer and die. That was certain in their life.
As soon as they got
cancer and die. Not as soon as they got it, but that was like their thing. They just like a common thing. Their life just sucked. They would just get cancer and die. But then they stumbled upon these gods, and they were like, "Hey, we got problems. Can you fix them?" And they were like, "Yeah, we can fix them." Their solution to fixing it was tricking them, and they made giant furnaces and just melted down the entire population of the Necron tier and trapped them inside of robots.
That's what
willingly
Bricky's about to
walked
get
line
to.
by line into the furnace engines made by gods who devour stars and had their souls consumed
bad for the mic.
instead. The
They're just hearing you
short-lived,
crinkle a
irradiated,
bag
and
of potato chips.
cancer-inflicted race of the
Right in
Necron
front
tier
of that.
ceased to be, and the immortal, soulless Necrons remained. Now backed by the immense
you put the
power of the
mic so
Catan,
close?
the Necrons rally against the Old Ones, and the bitter
Do it now,
conflict
I
in the
don't know what's
stars
it.
at this time is known as the War in Heaven. Despite creating various races and entities to aid them in this battle, the Old Ones are overwhelmed and eradicated down to the last due to the sheer
she doesn't.
power of the Catan fat off the souls of the Necron tier, and with an army of unthinkable robotic slaves at their behest. However, the Catan are greedy, spiteful gods, and when there was no foe worth killing, they turn on each other. The Necrons then put their sights towards the Catan and lay waste to them, securing their freedom. The once subservient Necrons now control their former masters. Worn out and weakened by these wars, the Necrons, under their leader Zarek, the Silent King, lie dormant, with a plan to eventually wake and reclaim control over the galaxy. Over millions of years, empires rise and they fall. The species created by the Old Ones have footholds over the galaxy, but on a pale blue...
So the Necrons are actually a really funny faction, lore-wise. Yeah. So the Necrons are actually the Necrons are a really funny faction lore-wise because they are not in a rush to conquer the galaxy. Okay. They're like the one faction who's like not always in a rush to take over the galaxy. So they have like a council. It sometimes takes that council like 2,000 or 3,000 years to come to a decision because they're all robots that have like souls stuffed into them. So they don't really have a concept of time anymore because they're just robots. There's actually a book about two Necrons and it is a hilarious book. So they don't really have a but there's a part where they're trying to learn something, and the one Necron, he employs this one young guy working at a library to help him with this research. But there's a part where literally one page later, one Necron he employs it cuts to like the start of the research, and then one page later he's at the end of the research, and the guy walks in and they start having a conversation about his life, and that's when the guy said, "I've been working for you for 60 years." And he was no longer a young kid. He was now an old guy looking to retire, and he was now actually able to retire because this Necron was funding him and his family to do this research for 60 years. And just like to give you the concept of their lack of perception of time, it literally just cuts from, it cuts a 60-year period within one page, and to the Necron it's like nothing happened, but then this whole page is dedicated to going through this one guy's last 60 years of his life and everything that happened within one page.
Dang. I need to read this.
Warhammer books are actually some of the greatest books out there. Some of them are funny, some of them are serious. There's like a
I know what I'm getting for Christmas, guys.
do you know the Expendables? Have you ever seen the movie The Expendables? Or like the A-Team? I think I prefer The Expendables. There's a book called Gaunt's Ghosts, and it's literally just the Warhammer Expendables. They take like actual pop culture stories and roll them into their own Warhammer story, and some of them, as I said, the Necron one is hilarious. There's some others that are just really cool, some that are like pop culture spin-offs. It's really great. I'll get you into Warhammer books eventually.
I know what I'm getting for Christmas,
in the thick
guys.
of all this conflict, humanity begins to evolve. And for the most part, the basic path of humanity's evolution remains the same as it is now for almost 15,000 years. Right now, in the 21st century, this is canon. You, right now, Twitch streamer reacting to this video, you existed at a point in the Warhammer universe. But with time, humanity's ambition and
let me go back a second to when that was saying "we see you." Did that say "I'm gay"
right
in the
now,
middle of
Twitch
his chest?
streamer reacting to this video, you existed at a point in the Warhammer.
Let me go back a second. I'm gay. That was saying "we see you." Did that say "I'm gay" in the middle of his chest? It's just "we see you, we see you, we see you."
I notice.
Notice I'm gay. What? It's just "we see you."
Universe. But with time, humanity's ambition and the power of their technology becomes unmatched, and the golden age of expansion begins. Humanity starts to branch out through the stars with powerful tools used for agriculture, mining, and expansion. Some branches of humanity would eventually settle far away from Earth itself, and around this time, the psychic ability of humans are greatly expanded, and what we begin to know as psychers appear.
But Star Citizen.
But despite all the progress, things would begin to collapse. The machines created to aid humanity would turn on them in M23, an event known as the Cybernetic Revolt, and trade would begin to collapse due to the immaterial warp, aka actual hell, beginning to cause ruptures in space and time. These warp stones would separate humanity, and this would be what is known as the Age of Strife. The warp, a sea of souls, storing all thought, emotion, and the souls of those who have passed on, begin fluctuating into something terrible, as far on the horizon, something horrendous was brewing. You see, the warp isn't just a random assortment of chaotic energy. It is fairly well organized, thanks to those living in the galaxy. The warp itself acts as an afterlife of sorts, and the actions of the innumerable amount of creatures who live in the galaxy have manifested a pantheon of organized entities known as the Forces of Chaos. At their helm are three major entities: Khorne, Nurgle, and Tzeentch. However, a fourth one, Slaanesh, was about to be born. The ancient Eldar were one of the first species created by the Old Ones, and due to their extreme and unbridled excess, the birthing of Slaanesh tore a hole in the galaxy and forever split the Eldar into those of the craft.
Okay, yeah, there.
I do like that dude, though.
Yeah, so there's a few different kind of Eldar. Some of what you're seeing there, one of them, like the one with the weird mask in the bottom right. See that one?
I do like that dude.
Blue booba. That is called a Harlequin, and they're they're really weird. They worship a laughing god. Like that's literally what his title is. He is the laughing god, and I forget what his actual name is. The ones above it, they're part of what is called a that's literally what his title is. He is the laughing god, and I forget what his actual name is. Listen, Eldar is probably my worst lore. I forget what they're called. I know the leaders of them are called Exarchs. Listen, and then they have my worst lore. Phoenix Lord at the head of that. I know the hierarchy, I just can't remember for the life of me what they're called. But there's two different sides, technically three different sides to the Eldar. There's the Craft World Eldar, which is that guy on the left. There's a Chaos side of them called the Drukhari, which
I don't like them.
the Drukhari are incredibly evil. They literally turn people into couches.
We're sitting on a couch? Or we're sitting on people?
Yes.
We're sitting on a couch. Yes, we are sitting on a couch.
Except they don't kill the people that they turn into the couches. They just horribly disfigure them and kind of like puzzle piece them into a chair.
Or we're sitting on people.
Yeah.
We're sitting on a couch.
They turn people into harps. There is actually a mini of Chaos Demon of Slaanesh playing a harp that is literally made out of a human. Like, the human is like the neck of it, and then their leg is the bottom part holding the bottom end of the strings, and their arm is the top part holding the top of the strings, and they play this human harp.
What?
Yeah, the Drukhari are incredibly messed up, but they don't choose to be like that. They're kind of forced to by Slaanesh, which he'll get into, where if they don't listen to Slaanesh, Slaanesh will devour their souls, and they do it to keep the Chaos God from killing all of them. And then there's a third one, and I forget what they're called, but these Eldar, kind of like, well, I believe the Harlequins are one of them. They live on their home planet still, and this isn't specifically the Harlequins. I forget what this group of Eldari are called, but they ride dinosaurs. They live on their home planet still. Yes, they ride dinosaurs. This isn't specifically the Harlequins. Also, it was really funny. So Eldar are very like tall, kind of skinny. They're also elves. They have like the pointy elf ears.
I thought elves were like this size.
No, like the Lord of the Rings elves, not the Thana elves. You know, like the live forever, long, beautiful hair, pointy ears. You know, have like a major like god complex. They think they're infinitely superior to humans in every way.
I've never seen a Lord of the Rings elf because I've never watched Lord of the Rings.
Have you ever seen Legolas?
No.
That is amazing to me. Anyway, these guys are
so many hate comments of me not knowing.
These guys are elves by that standard. They're tall, they kind of have a major superiority complex. They think they're better than every other species, and they're incredibly smart, tall, live forever. They're tall, they kind of have a and you know they're like thinner in stature than every other species. Anyway, I'm only breaking this down for you because somebody commented on the last video and I can't unsee it now. And you know somebody commented thinner in stature. An Eldari and his human girlfriend. Because somebody commented on the last video. I can't unsee it now. Somebody commented. Them.
Oh, the elves.
The space elves. An Eldari and his human girlfriend. So
how are you an Eldari?
Because I'm pale. I'm tall. I'm skinny. The only thing I'm missing is the pointy ears and the ability to live forever. Because I'm pale. And incredible racism. Eldar are really racist. You know what they call the humans?
I don't think I want to, but I'm gonna hear it anyway.
They call them Mankai. And incredible racism. Because I don't think Games Workshop could have gotten away with them just calling them monkeys. You know what they call the humans? So they call the humans Monkai. Because I don't think
okay, anyway,
who sought to bring their species back together, and those of the Drukhari, who wish to continue what caused the birth of Slaanesh in the first place. The birthing of this fourth chaos god settled the warp storms of the Immaterial,
they're the whips
and
and
ended
chains
the age
faction.
of strife. But humanity was still fractured. So one man revealed himself and spearheaded an immense attempt to reunite all the fractured pieces of humanity. That man was the Emperor of Mankind. After reclaiming the nearly destroyed Earth, the Emperor embarked on the unification wars to unite humanity under the banner of the Imperium of Man. However, due to the very long and devastating impact of the Age of Strife, humanity as we know it is not the same. To reconquer Earth, the Emperor would need more than mere men. Great beings, known as the Thunder Warriors, were recruited by the Emperor to reclaim the Earth with ease. But these warriors are a blunt tool and had, overstayed their welcome. He would need something better, and that solution would be known as the Space Marines. Superhuman soldiers.
So I want to break this down because he is going through it really briefly. Why are you calling for a timeout?
Timeout. What?
So he's going through this quite quick. So I do want to break down the Thunder Warriors. The Thunder Warriors are a thing that exists in lore only. There's no like minis of them. The Thunder Warriors were kind of, as Bricky said, they were blunt instruments, like literally just used for war. They were genetically designed by the Emperor to be foot soldiers to help him retake Earth. Blunt instruments, like from the like Mad Max style by the Emperor rebels to be foot soldiers to help him. But they weren't really intelligent. They were really stupid. They were like Neanderthal levels of stupid. But they were really good soldiers. So he had two things that he created. He created the Thunder Warriors in a way that he could mass produce them to have enough soldiers to, retake Earth. But then he had his own his own personal guard. He created the Thunder Warriors in a way that he could Custodian Guard, and they are one that is still around. He didn't really cover the Custodians because I assume he'll get there eventually. I actually haven't watched these two videos. These are newer. The Custodian Guard, and they are one that is still the Custodian Guards were created, and then once they retook Earth, the Thunder Warriors were like that scene from Star Wars where they were too powerful to be left alive. And then once they retook Earth, so the Emperor created the Space Marines, like that scene from Star Wars, and then he had the Space Marines go and just slaughter all of the Thunder Warriors. Or I could be wrong. He might have had the Custodians do it, but either way, he just had them go slaughter every last Thunder Warrior. And just they overstayed their welcome, and he kicked them to the curb real fast. But either way, he just had them go.
So anyway,
that will have the skill and cunning exponentially greater than the mortal man. These new warriors would be commanded by an elite group of his very own sons known as the Primarchs. Unfortunately, though, Daddy didn't charge the baby monitor, and his 18 sons would be stolen by the forces of chaos and scattered across the galaxy. This would begin the Great Crusade,
so this should be the part you should understand.
A monumental task to take back the stars in the name of humanity and reclaim the lost Primarch sons. However, he would need the fires of industry to make this happen. Looking to the distant cousins of Mars, the Emperor signed a treaty with the technologically irradiated hellscape of the Red Planet and allowed the cult of the machine god, the Mechanicum, to supply his crusade. While Space Marines were the tip of the spear, their numbers paled to the vast might of the Imperial Army and Navy. The Astra Militarum and their seemingly endless numbers make up the bulk of the fighting force for humanity, supplied by the intelligence and prowess of various agents of the Imperium, such as rogue traders and assassins. Due to the lack of connectivity between the worlds, what a society had become over thousands thousands of years became mysterious and varied. Tools once used for harvesting and agriculture now are being used as machines of war in the form of a
So those big machines, it's as he's saying, those were once farming equipment.
What?
They were used for mass farming, and then when the Great Crusade started, they realized, wait a minute,
Equipment.
we can strap guns to these
They
things.
were used for mass farming, and then
And that's what they
man.
and that's what they
The
did.
Great Crusade
They took
started,
these
they realized,
castle-sized robots
strap guns to these things.
that by the way have like this really cool culture behind them.
And that's
Like
what they-
the
and
Imperial
that's what
Knights
they
are really
did.
cool to read
They
about.
took these castle-sized
But they were all
robots
farming equipment at one point, and
by the
they
way,
just went,
have like this really cool culture
let's strap
behind
a
them.
gun
Like,
to it.
The Imperial Knights are really cool to read about.
What's that? We're scared of when they get close. Okay,
They were all
let's put a
farming equipment at one
massive
point, and they just went,
skyscraper-sized
"Let's
chainsaw
strap a
arm
gun to
on this thing.
What's
That-
that?
The
We're scared of
Imperial
when they get
Knights
close.
are
Okay,
so cool.
Let's put a massive
And by the way, yes, there are minis for them.
skyscraper-sized chainsaw
And the minis
arm on
would
this
probably stand about the size of
thing. The
like
Imperial
this stand the
Knights
camera's on
are
almost.
so
We can't see
cool.
I know.
And by the
I'm
way,
using
yes,
it as
there are minis
comparison
for
for you.
Oh.
And
to
the
see.
minis
They are
would probably
So
they're
stand
this
the
big?
size of like this
Probably
stand
bigger?
the camera's on almost.
yeah, something like that.
I know. I'm using it as
They-
Can we get one?
comparison for you.
Do you realize they're
They
like
are
So they're this
massive.
big?
$160 or something like
No,
that
Never
for
mind.
one?
I can stay there.
But granted, that would be an amazing painting project.
Can we get one?
That would be an amazing painting
I
project.
realize they're like
I would love to get an Imperial Knight at some point.
Imperial
But there's
Knights.
also Chaos
Some of these
Knights.
fractions of humanity would even be changed
I want
further,
Chaos
become
Knights.
unrecognizable to the average human,
would
with
be
differences in size, skin
Okay,
color,
pop quiz. Who are the guys standing on the ground?
but there's also Chaos Knights.
Come on, it's who was literally just talking about before the Knights.
The elves.
No.
Okay. Pop quiz. Who are the
Are
guys
you
standing
even
on the
paying
ground?
attention? That is the
Come on, it's who he was
Mechanicum.
literally just talking about
Oh,
before
the
Knights.
Mechanicums.
No.
I did not pay attention to that
Paying
part.
attention.
he went to
That is
Mars.
the
Oh.
Mechanicum.
And
Yeah,
you see,
but-
something happened on Mars where there was like a major like nuclear fallout on the surface, and everyone had to retreat underground.
Mars.
And so they couldn't really farm food
And
that
you see,
well.
something
And they
happened
didn't have
on
that
Mars
much
where there was,
power.
like, a major
So what happened
nuclear
is,
fallout on the surface.
the people kind of
everyone
just
had
started
to
like
retreat
chopping their
underground.
limbs off and replacing
And
them
so
with
they couldn't
robot
really farm
parts.
food that well.
And then after a
and they didn't
while,
have that much
they
power.
kind of became like a
So what
giant
happened is,
machine cult that like
the people
worships
kinda just started,
machines.
like, chopping their limbs
And
off and replacing
they
them with
kind of
robot
rebuilt
parts.
Mars from the ground
And
up
then
and
after
turned
a
it into a
while,
giant
They kind of
factory.
became like a giant machine cult that like.
Well, they were
worships
already living on
machines.
Mars. They just had to retreat below
They
the surface.
kinda rebuilt
And then
Mars
once they
from the ground
replaced
up and
their
turned it into
body
a
with,
giant
their
factory.
bodies with robot parts, there's not really a need for food,
Well, they were already
water,
living on
oxygen.
Mars. They just had to retreat.
So
below
they
the
kinda just
surface.
Were
And then
able to
once they
do whatever they
replaced
want.
their
And
body with,
Dipper.
you know, their
they're
body
obsessed with machines.
robot
So
parts,
obviously,
there's not really
they
need
turned the
for
planet
food,
into a giant
water,
freaking factory.
Oxygen.
Even though I'm pretty sure it was
So they kinda
already a
just
factory, but
were able to do whatever they want.
semantics.
Dipper.
And they're obsessed with machines.
But the
So
Mechanicus
obviously,
are actually really
they turned
cool
the planet
because
into a giant freaking factory.
the Imperium has
Pretty sure it was
a
already
million
factory.
planets.
Semantics.
A million
Million
planets.
But the Mechanicus,
And
are
we're
actually
talking,
really
2,
cool
3 billion
the
people per
Imperium
planet
has
on a million planets.
a million planets.
That's a lot of
Not
people.
not to mention we're talking
Million
about planets
planets.
that are bigger than Earth that are probably sitting
And,
at
you know,
like
we're talking,
10 billion
2,
people.
3 billion
That's
people.
insane.
They have
planet.
these big like city
million
planets, almost like
planets.
Coruscant from Star Wars,
That's a lot of
Not-
that
not to
have,
mention, we're talking about planets
that are called
that
hive
bigger than
worlds.
Earth, that are
and
probably
they
sitting at,
have
like,
probably
10
even
billion
more
people.
than that.
They have these big like city.
The
planets,
Imperium
almost like
has
Coruscant
a
from
lot
Star
at
Wars,
its disposal.
that have
and
that are called
The
hive
Mechanicus,
worlds. And they have
which is what they're
probably
called
even
now
more
in 40K, at the start of the lore, back before the Horus Heresy, they were called the Mechanicum. Now they're the Adeptus Mechanicus.
The Mechanicus, which is what
they build
now
every tank, gun, piece of armor, ship,
now they're the Adeptus
all of
Mechanicus.
it. All of it gets built by and maintained
They build
by
every
the
tank,
Mechanicus.
gun, piece of armor,
appendages, cat ears, sometimes. Some
All
would
of it
go
gets
so
built
far to become their
by
own
and
galactic
maintained
societies, like the
by
miners of the galactic
mechanics.
core and their immense supercomputers,
So this is kind of an irrelevant faction. I mean, they're kind of cool, but to me personally, I don't know too much about them. I like how my forehead's probably cut off of the frame as I'm leaning forward.
So this is kind of an irrelevant faction.
Purpose of being short.
Yeah, these guys are
Personally, I don't know too much
on the
about
screen here. They're called the Leagues of Votan. They're dwarves. They're space dwarves.
Are they really tiny? Being short. Are they like
Sort of. They're
that tall?
on the screen. No, they're probably like they're
That's all.
dwarves. You know what? Honestly, you're 5'3". I'm sure
No,
there's
I'm
some of
not.
them that are your height.
I'm 5'2".
They're probably like.
Get right.
You know what? Honestly, I guess she likes being short.
I do.
I'm
No, I'm not.
I'm sure there's probably some that are taller than you. I think you'd qualify as a Votan.
Really? Get
Yeah.
Right.
You're a
Not
dwarf.
a space wolfie.
Oh man.
I'm sure there's probably
Got
some
me
that
there.
are taller than you. I think
But
you
yeah,
qualify
this
as a
faction,
Votan.
there's not too much lore that I know personally about them, but I do know they have
You're a dwarf.
a bit of it.
Oh man.
But in the grand scheme of like everything happening in Warhammer,
this faction,
they're kind of
there's not too
irrelevant.
much lore that I know
forming the
personally about
Leagues
them,
of
but I do know
Votan.
they have.
After an incredible amount of effort and
Yeah, we're gonna
books,
be at this for
the
a
lost
while.
sons of the Emperor would be
See those
reunited,
guys
and the
lower on the
Imperium of
screen?
Man would
That
be firmly
is the
established.
Adeptus Custodes.
This, however, would not
Well,
last.
they
Be it
have
intentional
also have
or
the two
accidental,
names, but
the Emperor would not reveal
that's
to his
the
sons the
Emperor's
true
star.
nature of the galaxy and the terrors of the warp. And this
just gonna
oversight
let
would
Bricky
result
talk,
in
so
one
we'll
of the
be here
most
forever if I
impactful
keep
wars
pausing.
in humanity's history. The favorite son of the Emperor,
Yeah, this
Horus, would fall to the powers
Yeah,
of
it's a
chaos
dead
and
wolf.
Oh,
turn
man.
on his father.
Not nice.
This betrayal,
Why'd they
this
kill it?
backstabbing, this heresy,
yeah, that was
this Horus heresy
good job, Brick.
What do you say?
would
Heresy.
result in a split
Because it
in
was,
the Imperium
you know,
with
Yes.
devastating
Horus
consequences.
betraying
Half of the Emperor's loyal sons would fall to chaos and become the Chaos
heresy,
Space Marines,
this
along with the
Horus
forces
heresy.
of the Dark Mechanicum and the Chaos Knights. The conflict would result in the absolute obliteration of Horus and the physical death of the Emperor himself. The near-dead body of the Emperor would be placed on the Golden
What is
Throne to
that?
serve
That is
as a
the
beacon
Emperor's
of
body.
Ew.
Yeah, no, so
I don't like
what
it.
happened was actually very interesting to end the Horus Heresy, and I'm going to be very quick here. Well, try to be very quick here.
That
The
is
Emperor
Emperor's body.
went.
Ew.
Yeah, no, so
Like
what
it.
happened was actually very interesting
Better
to
cut
end the
that
Horus
out.
Heresy.
I
and
won't.
I'm going to be
The-
very quick here. Well, try to be very quick here. The Emperor
Went.
Honk.
The Emperor went aboard Horus's flagship during the Siege of Terra, which Terra is Earth, by the way, you know. During the Siege of Terra, the Emperor went aboard Horus's ship to confront Horus. That's when he found that Horus had killed Sanguinius. So they fight. The Emperor kind of beats the living tar out of Horus, but then kind of pauses before killing him because he, you know, he had a moment where he's like,
The Emperor
"Oh man,
kind
that's
of
still my
beats
son.
the living tar
I don't
out
want
of
to kill
Horus,
him." And then Horus took that
then
moment to
pauses
kind of
before
turn the
killing him
tide,
because
beat up the Emperor, and
he had a
then,
moment where
I
he's
kid you not, he cast a spell that incinerated the Emperor's
and then
face.
Horus took that
Ew.
moment
So,
to
see the bone
kind of
face?
turn the tide,
Yeah.
Yeah, he
beat up the
literally
Emperor, and then,
incinerated the
I kid you
Emperor's
not,
face.
Ew.
Cast a spell
The Emperor then,
that
somehow
incinerated
still
the
alive
Emperor's
after
face.
having his face incinerated,
So, see the bone
um,
face?
Yeah.
Yeah, he literally
created
incinerated the Emperor's face.
a psychic, like, spear
The
of
Emperor
light
then
that he threw
after having his face
and just stabbed straight through Horus. He threw it through Horus, and this psychic spear was so powerful that it literally destroyed Horus's soul.
Just stabbed straight through Horus.
So you know how I was saying the demon Primarchs can't die? They just go to the warp and they just regenerate and come back to life?
Yeah.
Literally destroyed Horus's
Well,
soul.
you see that they can do that because their soul still exists. The warp is where all souls go to. So
regenerate and come back to life.
the Emperor destroyed Horus's soul.
Well, you see that they can do that.
So there is literally no more Horus.
The warp is where all souls go to.
But then also, the Emperor, in order to defend humanity, he had this throne that created a psychic shield around Earth that kept chaos demons from invading the planet.
The Emperor, in order
So,
to defend humanity,
what happened is Rogel Dorn, who was on the ship with the Emperor, found the Emperor in the state he was in, and helped him back down to the palace, where he then put him on the psychic throne, where the Emperor basically sacrificed himself to put the barrier back up, and now he is literally a corpse on a throne, who is maintaining humanity's survival by keeping that barrier up. And in current 40k, see all those wires attached to him? That was actually built by the Mechanicus because he kind of, since he's dying, he and literal bones, he can't produce the power himself to keep the barrier up, so they have to sacrifice 1,000 psychers every day. So they have to gather 1,000 people who have psychic powers every single day and kill them, and sacrifice their souls to the Emperor to keep the barrier up.
So they have to gather 1,000
Yes.
humanity and allow for the continued ability
Warhammer
to
is
travel
crazy.
the stars, protected by his most loyal, the Adeptus Custodes. The Imperium would be vulnerable during
Why
this
is he
age of
upside down?
rebirth, and Terra would find itself under siege by one of the most formidable species in the galaxy, the Orcs. As time went on and memories of the Emperor's vision began to fade, the Emperor would become less of a head of state and more of a religious figure, and the Imperium would change to reflect this. The leadership on a planet would be at the behest of the High Lords of
skeleton
Terra,
man on
and
the
their
throne.
actions would be courtesy of the
He's, handsome
incomparable
before he
power
kills
and
us.
authority of the Inquisition. The zealots of the Imperium would intensify and create a brand new era known as the Age of Apostasy. And this ecclesiarchal command of the Imperium would end up with one of the strongest fighting forces
I
of
think
Terra,
he's just
the
breaking down
Adeptus
the overall lore,
Sororitas.
and then
Over
he's going to go
time,
into the
this age would
factions.
come to pass,
So
and we
I
would
think I'll
approach
just let
the
him explain,
40th
and then we'll get
millennium
into the
of
factions.
Warhammer 40,000. Which, you guessed it,
Good job,
would come
Rick.
with its own form of problems. A primitive species, once found during a recon mission, would be able to
Tau.
evolve in relative secrecy for 6,000 years, becoming a highly advanced coalition of aliens known as the Tau Empire. And if the threats of the galaxy weren't bad enough, there are threats from outside the galaxy. As a monster has begun to wrap its tendrils around the Milky Way, the Tyranids, monsters that serve a psychic hive mind and present tactics previously unseen in the Milky Way. Be it a direct assault with their monstrous bug-like presence, or through the more covert gene-stealer cults, the presence of yet another threat in the galaxy
Tyranids,
is proven
and
to
they're
be
just
overwhelming
giant
to the
hordes of
Imperium.
bugs.
In the 41st millennium, there is no peace among the stars.
Oh, and they eat
At any
people
point,
and,
your life can and
steal
will
their
be threatened
genes.
by the Xenos races uncountable, or by
Not
the
my
arch enemy of
genes.
Yep, they
chaos
steal
within,
your
or by
genes.
the decroded terror that is the Imperium itself. It is to live in the cruelest and most
Yeah, I'm
bloody
gonna stop
regime
pausing 'cause I know
imaginable.
we're gonna be here
Forget
forever.
the power of technology and science, or
I'm
the
gonna let him
safety
get to the
of
factions,
promise
and
and
then
understanding.
I'll pause.
For in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
He said the thing! He said the thing! That's the...
said
I don't even know what you'd say. The slow.
A fantastic job once again, Mr. Kurz, the Night Haunter himself. Oh, didn't you love that, my faithful audience? Once again, we have another criminal over the course of 6 hours break every single bone in his body. And with that, once again, our glorious leader has brought the crime rate to 0%. Always brought to you here on the Strawman News. I'm your host, Bricky. Thank you once again for joining us. Our top stories for tonight. The weather forecast appears to be rainy
on his
with
home
extra
planet.
dark.
He
So
just
make
kinda
sure you
killed
pack those
prisoners-
extra
or
batteries for your
prisoners.
lamp packs.
He probably did
And
that too,
of course,
but he
let's
killed
not
criminals.
forget the fantastic gang violence problem we're currently having. Oh, I'm sorry. What's that?
On his home planet.
Oh, right.
Kinda
It's
killed
gone.
Probably.
It's looking to be a chilly one tonight as well. So make sure your skin capes are nice and tight.
Skin capes?
Wait, hold on. One moment. No. Adamantium reserves have tripled? Wait, I'm sorry. Self-harm rates have gone down to 0%. The Night Haunter smiled? No. This could only mean one thing. It is the Strawman News' great privilege to bring some color back in your life with the brand new 3-part Gamer Supps drop exclusively on this here news network. That's right, your esteemed host Bricky, myself, is dropping a 3-part
I'm only
Gamer
leaving this
Supps
in
release
because
for
Bricky's
pre-order
great
available
and
now
go
and
support
only
him,
for a
even though
couple of weeks.
this definitely
Not
doesn't
only
exist
does it include
anymore.
a completely brand new artwork reskin of the Sweet 6-pack flavor, one of the highest selling flavors in the entirety of Gamer Supps, but it also comes with the first ever all over print Gamer Supps 32-ounce jug. And if that isn't enough for you, if the phenomenal drink and drink holder is not enough for you, we have a desk mat to go along with it. That's right, the Herculean look of the brand new Sweet 6-pack style is here. We're still looking at muscles beyond belief, but this time we're talking taste, we're talking Atlas, we're talking smooth.
I feel like
And if that
you'd
wasn't
understand the
enough,
context
I,
of
your
this one a
co-host
bit more if I'd have
pre-order
picked his
all 3
other
of these items,
Every
will
Faction Explained
personally
video from
hand-sign
his
a
original.
note for you, thanking you for supporting this network. All of this you can receive for 10% off if you go down in the description of this video and click the link, or go to gamersupps.com/Bricky and use code Bricky. Save 10% off with code Bricky. Bring some color back into your life and increase production across the board for our glorious leader, the Night Haunter. Thank you, Gamer Supps, for sponsoring the Strawman News, and let us move on to our next scheduled program. 5 years ago, I made every Warhammer 40k faction explained. A passion
that's the one I
project
was
of mine
referencing.
for a universe that I enjoyed so much. Its main purpose was to be a drawbridge, the separation between the layman who had only ever seen the big armored blue man situated neatly next to a Wetzel's Pretzels, and then the hardcore Warhammer lore nerd. That was just too wide, and there was nothing bridging these two together. Since 2020, Warhammer has exploded in popularity thanks to COVID, quality game updates, and a few excellent video games, and a couple miniseries. The sheer volume of people who have told me they have purchased miniatures due to that video alone makes me feel as if Games Workshop owes me commission. However, that video is incomplete.
You know,
I was not a casual
Games
fan, but I was
Workshop
also not a
definitely
hardcore
should.
lore junkie. In the 5 years since that video's release, multiple channels have sprouted up, and the drawbridge between casual to the obsessed has never been wider or easier to
Games
traverse.
Workshop
Even I,
definitely
myself,
should.
have been a part of Adeptus Ridiculous, a podcast teaching lore in a much simpler and condensed form. Needless to say, I've learned a lot. Warhammer is
Simpler
so
and
much
condensed
more
form.
than just Spaceman
Yeah.
shoots big gun. It has also grown substantially from its origins, being a Warhammer Fantasy spin-off just in space. Now, It is a black library filled with immensely deep characters, difficult themes, and even some tear-jerking stories. It is a backdrop for a million stories over a million worlds, and I did not see its true depth in 2020. But now, I'd like to share what I've learned. We just had a brief summary of the world and each faction that takes place during it. And we did that because to truly understand each faction, we must understand what makes them the way they are. And to do so, we need to begin in chronological order, discussing their origins, their culture, their powers, and of course, what makes them oh so grimdark. So let's begin with the group that started it all and sing praise to the Infinite Empire.
Don't compromise.
As mentioned before, the Necron tier were the original form of the Necrons, an alien race far away from us that lived short, painful lives due to the irradiation of their star. Normally, this would manifest as like a sort of cancer, a space cancer of sorts. The Necrons are very much inspired by the ancient Egyptian aesthetic, but unlike the windswept dunes commonly associated with it, the irradiated hellscape the Necrons endured was far from picturesque. This also translates into their hierarchy. They are a race of nobles and peasants. Most of the peasants would often live for their very short amount of time, only a couple of decades, while the nobles tended to have better care and would live a little bit longer, but still far less than the average lifespan of a human, even today in the 21st century. The leader of the Necrons was Zarek, the Silent King. He was the one who took the deal with the Catan and the Deceiver. Of course, he wasn't aware of the fact that they were known as the Deceiver at the time, but the whole species was blinded by hate after being debased by the Old Ones on their quest to cure their illness. The sheer pain that underwent the Necron race can't be understated, as their fear was manic. The Catan are, of course, gods that eat stars, and when the leader of your species tells you to march into the gigantic green furnaces to ascend to immortality, you march. The scenes from these are long lines of both the peasantry and nobles clutching their loved ones in a frantic act to save their own lives. Many of them already inflicted in the late stages of this space cancer, some of them crawling into the biotransference furnaces trying to outrace death itself, without realizing death was the one who made these to begin with. What came out the other side was a soulless husk. And I say that literally. A soul is not an abstract concept like it is in our world, an immaterial version of oneself discussed and debated.
What's up, YouTube? You should go subscribe to this channel. We took a little break. You should subscribe, comment, like, share it with your friends. You should go subscribe to this channel. We took a little break. Yeah. You should subscribe, comment, like, share it with your friends.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Debated in religion and philosophy. No, in Warhammer, a soul is a real, tangible item of oneself. And the Catan basically were just like to every single person who went in their furnaces. If you were a peasant, you came out a Necron warrior, and you as an individual have ceased to be. You have no mind, you have no soul, and your body, as you know it, is made of an extremely advanced mass of re-knitting living metal known as necrodermis. You cannot think for yourself, for you do not have a brain to think with. All you do now is await protocols from your overlords, which are the nobles who came out of the furnaces with their minds intact. Not their souls, mind you, because but their minds are very much intact. These nobles now have command protocols, and they are able to command all of their peasantry and do with them whatever they wish. Zarek, the Silent King, is the most advanced of all the Necrons, a perfect metallic version of himself with incredible power and intelligence. His strength allowed him to lead the undead and the unthinking armies of the Necrons to battle against the Catan when they were at their weakest due to their incessant infighting, and then win back their freedom. But gods cannot die. So in reality, what occurred is the Catan were shattered into thousands of pieces, and each shard of their god was trapped in a stasis vault and mind controlled to do the bidding of the Necrons they once enslaved. The biggest challenge they face now are actually the upstarts of the galaxy. The Eldar and the Orcs were quite prominent, and as you can imagine, a galactic war really takes its toll on the joints, or I guess the servos. It was in their best interest to wait out the galactic rise of the other races and come back at a more opportune time. So they went into stasis via these massive tomb complexes hidden beneath various worlds, biding their time until it was once again their opportunity to rule the galaxy. Zarek, the Silent King, as penance for his failure to his people, exiled himself into the darkness between stars for the next 60 million years with his perfect memory, a constant reminder of the doom he inflicted upon his people. Flash forward to the modern day, and the Necrons are reawakening, but it isn't working as well as it could be. Whether the tomb world is reawakened naturally or by some imperial moron stepping on a green glowing rock, the Necrons have come back to reclaim a galaxy they consider rightly theirs. But 60 million years of hypersleep have taken their toll. Many Necron dynasties awake with systems unrestored and huge swaths of their population's minds completely lost. Necron nobles wake with various mental faculties compromised, sometimes exhibiting traits similar to excessive paranoia, schizophrenia, or even dementia. One notable Necron, Nemesor Zandrek, believes that he is still back on his home planet fighting off separatists and interlopers. See, Oberyn, the separatists come, attempting to outflank me as they did at the 4th Battle of Vindach. How they calculate that daubing themselves green and roaring like savages will produce a different outcome, I cannot fathom. But it is of no account. Ready, my legions. Another glorious victory shall soon be ours. Other individuals, such as the esteemed Imhotep the Stormlord, seek to usurp the newly returned Silent King for rightful ruler over the Necron race, believing his time has come to an end, while scientists and archaeologists like Trazen the Infinite and Orikin the Diviner spend thousands of years bickering.
That's actually, I believe, the cover of that book that I was telling you about the Necron. So, these two are actually really, funny. I think it's I know Orikin's the one on the right, and Trazen is on the left. Trazen is hilarious, because he's like a museum owner. He literally just collects things, like guns, armor, people. He collects them and he keeps them in a little museum. But he also has them in like these Pokeballs, like guns, armor. Yeah, like it's Pokemoners. Like he can take them, collects them, and he keeps like he'll take them, and he can leave his museum, and he just kind of throws the Pokeball out there, and next thing you know, this like 2,000-year-old soldier who's been trapped in stasis in a museum for the last 2,000 years is now standing in the middle of a battlefield, and they don't know how he got there. 2,000-year-old soldier who's been
Pikachu and
yeah. Trazen is a very interesting guy, and the book of these two, of Trazen and Orikin, as I said, it's hilarious. I love that book.
I want to read them.
Okay.
And petty squabbles. Truly, the Necrons are a faction of unthinkable, unimaginable power, held back entirely by their own hubris and 60 million years of stasis. It is a species that does not know of time, only of the ravages brought by it. A pharaoh of a dynasty may just be as frightened to awake completely mad as they are to be assassinated while they sleep. Thousands of years pass in an instant.
There's a
There's a play, like an opera play, a retelling of the war in heaven in the Necron culture that takes 40 years to witness. Because why leave? You have no need to eat or vacate your bowels. You are immortal, but you are soulless. Despite the
Imagine sitting
Necron's
for 40
incredible
years, just never
technology,
standing
their
up,
mastery
just so you can
over
watch a
time,
play.
reality itself, despite all
A
of
play
this,
that goes for
they
40
still
years.
are missing a
That is
soul.
insane.
And therein lies
That's
the
the
biggest
Necrons.
struggle. Most
They
Necrons
are
look to conquest the
goofy,
galaxy, kill the
hilarious.
interlopers like the humans,
I
Eldar,
love
orcs
them.
that
I love the
scrape at a
Necrons.
fraction of their power. But the end goal for many, including
That's the
Zarek
Necrons.
himself, is
They
to
are
return the
goofy,
souls to their
hilarious.
bodies, to undo the horrible fate he cast upon them. This is not the interest of all. Many simply wish to rule their dynasty with an iron fist and kill all they consider unworthy. But to many others, it is to undo the decision that doomed them all. Before they can do that, there is a pest that needs exterminating. That is the fundamental understanding of the Necrons. They are so hyper advanced that their science borders on magic. They play with the fundamental aspects of reality and time. Their mastery of the physical galaxy is the strongest in the universe. Their weapons reduce people to the barest molecules, and they have devices capable of causing stars to supernova. They are unfathomably difficult to kill, as if you do fell one of their number, the living metal reknits itself and the reanimation protocols allow it to come back alive once again. They're masters of teleportation, and often killing a Necron fully will just have its consciousness translocated back to their tomb world to await reassembly. Normally they utilize large phalanxes of warriors and honorary combats, but some of them have fallen to various mind viruses. The destroyer cults are hell-bent on killing anything and everyone that lives with an overwhelming force. And then there's the flayed ones.
Space Marine
Necrons
too.
cursed with I have no mouth and I must scream, a panic attack virus, as the last laugh of Landogo, the Flayer Catan. Slowly losing their minds, they strip apart their foes and adorn their bodies with the skin of their enemies, trying to better return to their old feelings of flesh and blood. The Necrons are a degraded version of their mighty empire, and still one of the biggest threats in the galaxy. The only thing keeping them at bay currently is their awakening sickness and their infighting with no care to the timeline. But they are coming. And slowly, they plan to rid this galaxy of the vermin that inhabit it. My people shackled the stars and broke mortality when the species you sprang from had barely left the slime pools it spawned in. Our wars burned reality, and the dominion of our kings is without limit. The ground you tread on is not yours. It is ours. The war in heaven was a catastrophic time for the galaxy, and as stated in the above quote, burned reality. Of course, souls exist in Warhammer, and in the case of the Necrons here, they were consumed by the star gods. This begs the question, however, if you were to pass on, expire, as one might put it, where would your soul go? The answer to this is the warp. In Warhammer, a soul is real. And so is hell. The afterlife, the Empyrean, the Sea of Souls, the Immaterium. All of these names refer to the dimension parallel to our own known as the warp. Now, the warp is not like our reality. It does not follow the classic normalcy of time and space. It is defined as the Sea of Souls, and it acts like this in a more literal way than you can realize. To imagine the warp is to imagine the sea itself. Hell is real, and you can surf on it. It has a current and can become more dangerous depending on where you go and how bad the weather is. As the Immaterium is a reflection of our reality and of our souls, all thoughts, all emotions, all feeling that goes with a soul is passed on into the warp. If an entire planet decides it's going to engage in a blood-fueled rampage of murder and gore, then the warp around that planet will be affected in a similar manner. It's not something that you can see. It is a parallel, not perpendicular dimension. But it is changing. To expose oneself to the warp for any period of time invites certain death outside of the most iron-willed of individuals, and to stare into it will drive one mad. Much like the open seas, things dwell in the war. Whether these beings were always there and were just emboldened by the carnage of the galaxy, we can only speculate at. At a time, you could say it was more calm. But a certain faction's galactic war in heaven didn't do it any favors. Now the warp is turbulent, and its realms belong to a pantheon of gods known simply as The forces of chaos are beings that serve directly under their patron deity. There are 4 current gods of chaos at the moment: Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh. Each of them represent various facets of and emotions of sentient species and play a great game against one another for total control over their realms. Interestingly enough, while their disciples have physical forms we can understand, the Chaos Gods do not have a physical visual that you can perceive in reality. So while there are tons of fantastic fan art, we do not know what they truly look like, though they are conveniently color-coded. Khorne is the god of blood and murder, carnage, and slaughter. He is the one who is most powered by the wholesale killing of any living thing, for Khorne cares not from where the blood flows. With a sacred number of 8, he is the lord of all things involving killing and blood and gore. The champions are extremely strong as well, with monumental muscles and extremely large weapons. A true analog to Khorne would be his greater demon, the Bloodthirster, an enormous muscle-bound flying devil with an axe so large it splits tanks in a single swing. They move into battle with armor of brass adorned by the skulls of their foes and pools of freshly spilt blood. This may appear to be quite frightening, of course, demonic, one might say. But in the world of chaos, all emotions feed one of these gods in one way or another. If you were to define Khorne with single words, you would use blood, carnage, murder, skulls. But you'd be missing out on important ones like strength,
one of their
honor,
big sayings
prowess,
is blood for the
courage,
blood
and
god,
skill.
skulls
Khorne
for
is
the
not
skull
just
throne.
about the wholesale slaughter of people. He is about the honor and power of martial combat. The true strength there is in besting someone in physical strength and skill. Of course, a murderer would be someone who would feed Khorne, but a soldier could feed Khorne. A martial artist or professional fighter could feed Khorne. A warrior, good or bad, feeds Khorne. A diplomat does not. A premier soldier does. A GoFundMe does not. This is what leads many mortals down the path of Khorne, for he will bless those that bring him enough skulls. And in a world this destructive, there are many ways to reap a high tally for him. Prepare the dread claws and unchain the mad ones. Glorious battle awaits us today, for the world below has refused to surrender. Let us descend upon them with fury and rage, giving no quarter and sparing only those warriors who fight well enough to earn a place amongst us. As to the rest, their lives and possessions are ours, but their skulls are for Khorne. Normally, if I ever want to explain Khorne, I just kind of show him this clip.
I'd never stab you in the back, Shepard. Warriors like you and me, straight to the face.
Moving on, Tzeentch is the second god, the god of trickery and mischief, the changer of ways, the great conspirator and the architect of fate. With a sacred number of 9, Tzeentch is truly the god of change in all of its forms, but there is an obvious undercurrent of mischief and cunning. Tzeentch is such a liar that his pants have gone thermonuclear.
What?
Crazy statement.
Where the f is it?
His favorite pastime is asking questions that have no answers while simultaneously making up answers on the spot to a question he didn't ask.
Have you ever had a dream that you could do so you
That's me.
you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
He is such a conniving little bastard that every emotion of lying, of scheming, of trickery is a direct way to help feed him. An unfaithful partner, a politician, a spy. All these people feed Tzeentch in one way or another, and it doesn't matter if the intentions are good. Acceptance does not feed Tzeentch. Change does. Tzeentch doesn't care about your facts. He only wants opinions. Because he represents change, he also represents hope, though. Schemes are not always bad, and even the hope to make a better tomorrow is the change he seeks. Because he is the architect of fate and the mastery of sorcery, his presence is purely unknowable. Every depiction of a Tzeentchian demon contains more eyes than are necessary and more mouths than I know what to do with. It is a biblically accurate angel if the angel gaslit you into thinking birds are government drones.
What to do with, huh?
But are they? The creatures at his disposal adorn themselves with the knowledge of sorceries and the unknown, all to provide a mind-crushing experience. Fighting demons from outside of our reality is difficult.
So basically, he's a nerd who can't tell the truth. Let's just break Tzeentch down.
But fighting demons from unreality, purposely attempting to trick you, is a whole new thing entirely. And that is before we even get started on the gigantic bird of sorcery you're going to need to face. Do not ask which creature screams in the night. Do not question who waits for you in the shadow. It is my cry that wakes you in the night, and my body that crouches in the shadow. I am Tzeentch, and you are the puppet that dances to my tune. Third of the Chaos Gods is the one of acceptance of rot and pestilence, the grandfather himself, Papa Nurgle. Nurgle is the exact opposite of Tzeentch. Where Tzeentch believes in change and hope for a future, Nurgle believes in stagnation and the end of everything. At one point or another, we will all decay. We will all rot, and we will all end. And with a sacred number of 7, every single thing, pestilence, boil, and everything in between, comes under the great shadow and girth of Nurgle himself. For Nurgle, the plight of mortals is his fear and wine. And no matter how solid life might be, everything will decay in the end. In the creation of life, there must be an end to that life. And nobody has more creations to end lives than Grandfather Nurgle himself. Every boil, every blemish, every pus-filled wound and disease, every rot, and every plague is kept and concocted by Nurgle. This, humorously, keeps Nurgle as a jovial god. He is full of life and laughter, and by creating as many diseases as he possibly can, he shares that joy with mortals. I mean, his envoy is the great unclean one, and look at how happy he is. And there's a lot of him to love. A fear of death in general is feeding Nurgle. All disease makes him stronger, but to pray for salvation for a wounded loved one is to feed Nurgle. The timeless and inevitable fear that one day you will rot and decay is what gives him strength. The Peloton won't feed Nurgle. Licking the doorknob on a public bathroom certainly does. However, should you embrace your grandfather's gifts, you may find an end to your pain. Maybe. All mortal followers of the Chaos Gods found themselves there in one way or another, either through the direct worship or the slow corrupting of their souls. But those that take Nurgle's gifts and embrace the decay of their bodies may end up being chosen among his few as a faithful servant. In doing so, you will be free of the pain caused by Nurgle's ailments, and you may even find yourself just as jovial and happy as he is.
What?
Maybe. His enemies shall wither and die. His allies shall wither and die. The universe and all within it shall wither and die. And when the great corruption has settled over the land and permeated the very foundations of reality itself, then shall the Lord of all rise from the rot and ruin, spread his arms wide to reclaim all of his dutiful children. Those were the 3 major Chaos Gods for a very long time, emboldened by war and death on a galactic scale. Ever present, but now fact on the suffering of a galaxy. One race, for a while, was able to elude the pull of chaos. An advanced race of psychically attuned aliens whose master over the physical world was so strong that chaos could not glean from them the morsels of power they once had. Or so they couldn't. Not for a long while. 60
I
million
have a
years
beefy
ago, in an
nose.
attempt to combat the Necrons and Catan, the old ones made a new species. One with innate power in the warp and the ability to harness it with a mastery that was unseen by so many others. A mastery so powerful, the Necrons retreated to sleep in order to wait it out. It was no longer a galaxy to be ruled by them, but instead begin the age of the... The Eldar are a race of pointed-eared humanoids that are all psychically attuned to the warp. If we're being meta here, these are space elves, and these elves ruled the galaxy in the time the Necrons went to sleep and humanity began to rise. The Eldar's empire was galaxy-wide and lasted for longer than any other galactic power that we know of. Their understanding of all things was exceptional. With every single one of them being psychers, they had the ability to master the warp and use it to their advantage. See, being a psyker is basically like being a wizard or...
Oh, also, I don't know if we'll cover this, but they were so powerful psychically that you know how I said they lived a really long time and they couldn't normally die? Well, even if they died
psychically,
they could just take their own soul and revive themselves.
They lived a really long time.
They were that powerful psychically
even if
that they could
died,
just revive themselves
they could just
if they ever
take
died.
their own soul and revive
I guess in this case it's
themselves.
more of a sorcerer, since you are born with the
The
gifts as
Eldar
opposed
are
to
very
learning them. In order to
interesting.
utilize your psychic
Yeah.
abilities, however, you must then reach into the other dimension, into the warp, into hell for that power. So if you were to say, cast
Eldar are
Fireball,
very
your mind would reach into the warp, gather the strength to rewrite reality, to then cast Fireball. Now, you might think to yourself, doesn't that mean if you are opening up a power to the warp, you may create a lot of risk to yourself because of all the horrible things we just talked about in the warp? Yes! However, in Warhammer 40k, willpower is a real, tangible thing, in the sense that in its own right, it can be weaponized. Being strong of will means being strong of soul, and being strong of soul means you can resist the pull of the warp that much more. A more inexperienced psyker opens up a hole into the warp that is large, and that hole widens to get more power, allowing evil things to get in. A powerful psyker is able to open a very small hole, but with immense force, to get the same amount of power with less risk. The Eldar are master psychers. Every single one of them can call upon the warp, and over millions of years they have perfected it so much so that they can weave structures out of it. In some species in the galaxy, they utilize the warp itself for interstellar travel. The Eldar ain't having any of that noise. How about we utilize a fancy alternative mode of travel that is substantially safer than the old ones created, called the webway? What about dying? Miss me with that. We no longer age. And if we do, we can just be reborn like that. Food, water, materials, we make things out of distilled warp essence itself. We sing unreality into cathedrals to dine in. What truly could the Eldari Empire possibly fear?
It's scary.
The Eldari Empire's biggest fear was themselves, with a society so perfect they wanted for naught, and this led them down dark and dangerous paths. When the base functions of society are no longer a problem for you, you tend to
Watch you.
experiment.
Do that.
Perhaps the medium
Stop
rare
being so
steak
picky.
on your plate would be better if it was elf
flip
meat.
those.
Hey, I'm not saying we should make cannibalism legal, but like, what's the issue with a little taste? Violent sports is
Why
one
wouldn't I?
thing.
Why'd you look at me?
How come we don't do sports to the death? I mean, if I'm just
that
saying,
too,
like,
Steve.
if both participants are willing and clear about it, like, what really is the problem there? You know,
Why'd you look
art
at me?
is in the eye of the viewer, and what is considered art is completely up to the concept of one's own interest. A canvas adorned with the blood of a man wronged is truly the visual poetry that our society needs. Hedonism with a slow and consistent hedonism, the Eldar slid backwards into debauchery of the sort I cannot discuss on this YouTube video. Murder on stage, delicacies and drugs distilled from one another, the trade of slaves and concubines, and much worse. The Eldar physiology has their emotions heightened, and they can feel more than a human does. So while it can provide lows of pure despair, it can also provide greater highs than you have ever known. And swinging between the two of them was the Eldar game. The Warp took notice of this heavily, and it began to react. On a galactic scale, the debauchery and the hedonism of the Eldar race caused levels of warp storm so pronounced and so volatile that it cut off interstellar travel for all those who used it. Communications between planets was removed, and a nightmarish era of old night began. This continued for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. The Eldar all but removed from the problems being caused as they entered heights of more and more ecstasy. They needed more and more and more. Nothing was ever enough. More murder, more torture. It's art, it's delicacies, it's life. This silence offends Slaanesh.
Fury.
The Triple Treat box is back,
Pizza
so you can
Hut.
holiday is hard.
Wait. Slaanesh, the prince of pleasure, she who thirsts, the god of unspeakable excess, is our fourth chaos god with the sacred number of 6 adorning their title. Slaanesh is a bit of a tricky one, because with our other 3 chaos gods, there was a certain understanding of human emotions and desires, but for Slaanesh, that desire is how they get their power. The words to be used would be decadence, pleasure, perfection, passion, excess, and many others. The pursuit of more, the want to do more, experience more, become more. That's what gives Slaanesh their gifts. A lot of people believe that Slaanesh is something that originates with sex, specifically, and it makes sense why they assume that. The visuals of Slaanesh patrons are all very lithe and sexual, but they are also intentionally androgynous to appear attractive to a variety of intrigues. However, to think that Slaanesh specifically derived
Gayest shit imaginable.
Let me unpause the video.
from sex would be mistaken. While it is true that a lot of humanity's actions can relate to getting laid, and Slaanesh is the dark prince of desire, it's more on the lines of feeling an excess of an emotion. It is excessive touch and scent and desire, and a lot of that has to do with sex. That's why it looks like sex, but it's more than just that. A patron of the arts may feed Slaanesh, one that aspires to become the perfect chef or master of their craft, and the sheer pursuit of that alone will feed Slaanesh. Whiplash is Slaanesh's absolute favorite film. Videos where people beat Elden Ring on a dance pad feed Slaanesh.
There are no 2 words in the English language more harmful than good job.
But is there a line?
No, man, no.
This also moves into the concept of feeling. Sensation is a majorly Slaanesh.
Slaanesh is an interesting one.
I can see that.
The people associated with Slaanesh, like the Drukhari and the Emperor's Children. Yeah, they are. There's something. And the stuff involving Slaanesh, well, like Tzeentch's stuff is like very like mind bending and hard to understand because it's meant to not be able to be understood. Well, like Slaanesh is just weird. So each of them have their own realms, and their realms have like trials you can go through. Slaanesh's realm, like the first, she has like different rooms or like layers of her realm that you go through. The first layer of her realm is like a feast. Like you're, you just like, or no, it's a river of wine. The first, it's a river of wine, and a feast.
like you're
you have to
just like no, it's a river
keep
of
yourself from drinking from it. And if you drink from
a
it,
river of wine.
you just keep drinking from it, and you can't stop yourself from drinking from it, and then eventually you just get sucked into the river.
Keep yourself from drinking.
Interesting.
And if you get past that,
drink from it,
you get to a feast.
You just keep drinking
And then,
from it, and you can't stop yourself from drinking from it.
It's like all really good looking food. But if you eat the food,
And if you get
you
past
then
that,
begin to notice
you get to a
that
feast.
there's a pile of
And
human
then,
bodies next to the table that there's a demon
it's
chopping
like
up
all
into
really
the food to
good-looking
put
food.
back on the
But if you
table.
eat the food.
Ew.
Yeah,
then begin to notice
or there's
that
one layer
there's a
that's
pile of
like
human bodies
a-
next to the
just a-
table
a
that
tunnel
there's a demon
of- it's like a
chopping up into the
hallway
food to put
of
back on the
flesh.
table.
Ew.
that like has an aroma in it that's like
Ew.
that makes you like hypersensitive to a feeling.
Ew.
It is the Slanesh is the
Gross.
weirdest.
Think weird. It's gross.
Yes.
Ew.
That makes you like hypersensitive to
Coded thing. It might start
And yes,
off feeling good.
some
but
of
then
this
you get to
fan art you're
play
seeing.
around a little bit, you know? You play with a little bit of
Weird,
pain.
it's gross.
Light pain
Yes.
might not be enough, so you might want
about it?
more. Or inflicting
I'd
the
want a
pain
different
could be
picture
your
of this
jam.
fan art
Music
show, but-
can increase to volumes that
But
may
one of the previous pictures where it like showed the one with like the like spiky arm and like the one booba
Different picture to
and the loincloth. Yeah, no, that's actually a literal
the one with like the
miniature
spiky
that you can
arm
get.
and, like the
They're called
one booba.
demonettes.
Mm-hmm.
and the loincloth.
Yeah,
hurt
that's
your ears
actually
even
no, I
then,
don't
that
plan to.
might not
I
be
do not
enough.
want a Slanesh
More.
army.
You must
All the
have
all the
more.
gooners.
Many
Gooners
of the
like
disciples of
Slanesh.
Slanesh carry a demonic form in their lithe
Yeah,
grace.
them.
The keeper of secrets is his chosen envoy, and their
And I
movements
forget what
are a
that top
blur
one's
of
called. I
dance
think-
and pain with an
I think they're
aura
called
all
Keeper
the
of
more
Secrets.
fatal. They
Those
dance
big
and
ones.
sing, but there's
That one.
always
Ew.
a
Far
form of
left, that's a
malice
demonite.
behind every action
And
they
that
take.
one,
An
that like
alluring
weird
gaze that will
anteater
pull
thing
you in
is
right
also
before the
another
demonic
unit.
entity can crush you in that
Yep.
grip. Slanesh's palace has 6 layers surrounding
I like
it,
the
and one of
Emperor's
them
Children,
is the
but
excess
that's only
of
because
God,
I like
where
the
the
color
participant finds
of
themselves in a
that. I
beautiful
like the
banquet
colors of their
full
armor
the
and
most
the way their
delicious
armor
foods
looks.
imaginable. Tables
The Emperor's
of
Children are really
delicacies, and
weird.
rivers
As a matter of
like
fact,
the Emperor's
I want to talk
Children,
about the
but that's
Emperor's
only
Children
'cause
because
I like the color of
so during the
like
Horus
the colors
Heresy,
of their armor and the way
Ferrus
their armor
Manus, who
looks.
was the Primarch of the Iron
Emperor's
Hands,
Children are
got
really
killed by
As a matter of fact, I wanna
Fulgrim,
talk
who
about
was
the
the
Emperor's
Primarch of the
Children,
Emperor's
because-
Children. Fulgrim
So during the Horus
killed
Heresy,
Ferrus Manus with
Ferrus
the
Manus,
demon
who was the
sword that
Primarch
had
of
been
the Iron
corrupting his
Hands,
head.
got killed.
And
by,
what happened is he gave in to the
who was the
sword for
Primarch
a
of
second
the
because he was
Emperor's
actually about to lose the fight
Fulgrim
to
killed
Ferrus Manus,
with
and the
demon
demon sword took control of him and
and
chopped
what
Ferrus
happened is he
Manus's
gave
head
in to
off.
the sword for a second 'cause
Decapitated
he was
him.
actually about to lose the fight.
But Ferrus Manus was
to
actually
Ferrus
good
Manus,
friends with
and the-
Fulgrim. They were good
the
friends with
demon
each
sword
other,
took
and
control of
Fulgrim
him
didn't want to kill him.
chopped Ferrus
So Fulgrim
Manus's head off.
Immediately became depressed.
But Ferrus Manus was actually
He
good
was
friends with
immediately
Fulgrim. They were good
like
friends with each other,
ultra
and
mega
Fulgrim didn't
depressed,
want to kill him.
and
So
he
Fulgrim
just kind of said,
immediately became
"Man,
depressed.
I don't want to live anymore."
He was
And then he went to the
immediately,
demon and the sword, and he said, "Hey, you
ultra mega depressed.
want to
And
take the
He
reins?"
just kind of said,
He just
"Man,
wanted to die
wanna
that
live
bad that he was
anymore."
like, "Yeah, take my
and then
body,
he went
whatever."
To the demon and the sword. And he
So
said, "Hey, you
so
wanna-
this demon took control of
you wanna
him.
take
So
the
like it was his
reins?"
body, but it wasn't him.
He just wanted
And
to
after this
die
big
that
fight,
bad. He was like,
All
"Yeah,
the
take
Chaos
my body,
Primarchs
whatever."
had had a
this
big
demon
feast.
took
They had a
control
big
of
dinner
him.
with each other.
So like it was his
Okay, and it was
body,
all the Chaos
but it wasn't
Primarchs
him.
together.
And after
And
this big fight,
um
all the Chaos Primarchs
they're all
had,
sitting having dinner, and it's like
had a
really
big
awkward
feast.
because
they had a big dinner. with
they're
each
all
other.
there.
Okay, and it was all the Chaos.
But
Primarchs
Fulgrim
together. And
is there physically, but it's not actually him. It's some demon
they're
in
all
his body.
sitting having dinner, and it's
And
like really awkward. Because
Lorgar
they're all there.
like gets up and he starts a whole argument. He's
Fulgrim
like, "Are we just really
is
gonna
there
sit here and
physically,
pretend like this
but it's
isn't
not
screwed
actually
up?"
him. It's some demon in his body, and
And then he like he
Lorgar,
threw a fit over
like
it.
gets up and he
But anyway,
starts a whole argument. He's
um,
like, "Are we just really gonna sit here?" And
Fulgrim's
pretend like this
Legion
isn't
also
screwed up?"
realized that it wasn't him. It was
And
just
then
his
he,
body.
Like, he threw a fit over it.
Until the
But
one
anyway,
of his captains who was
Fulgrim's
walking
Legion
through
also
his
realized that it wasn't him.
through his ship, his flagship, and he realized this beautiful painting on the wall. One of his captains, of Fulgrim, through his, and then he realized the eyes of the painting were following him. And he realized this beautiful painting. And then he realized that Fulgrim's soul was trapped inside the painting.
Oh.
And then he realized the eyes. So you know what they did? They went to him and a few other guys made a plan. Inside the painting. They were gonna capture the demon that is Fulgrim. Okay? And they're gonna torture him until the demon gives Fulgrim his body back. They were gonna capture. Okay? So that's what they did. The next day they get together. Okay. They crack Fulgrim over the back of the head with a shovel, like Fulgrim his body back. Home Alone style. So that's what they tie him to a table, and they're torturing him. They're saying, "Give us our Papa back," because the Space Marines are kind of the kids of the Primarch, because they have their gene seed, so they look at him as a father. They're like, "Give us our father back," because the Space Marines are. And then after an hour, or probably not even, probably like a whole day. So they're like, "Give us our father back." Fulgrim just undoes the binds that had him tied to this table, gets up, and went, "Yeah, it was me the whole time. I got out of that painting yesterday." Undoes. And he just let them tie him down and torture him because he enjoyed it. Up and went, "Yeah, it was me the whole time. I got out of that kinky is." And he just let that only slightly describes it. Because he enjoyed it.
Of wine tempt the user to such a degree that they cannot stop stuffing their face, unaware that the things they are eating are very vaguely familiar. If one does not see themselves drowning in the river of wine, they may soon fill their bodies up so much that they cease to function and fall
He's
over,
actively talking about what I just was telling you about.
of the banquet themselves. That is one of the 6 layers of Slanesh's palace. This was the ecstasy that the Eldar civilization indulged in for millennia.
That's what the
and
tabletop
did so
mini
at a
looks like.
monumental scale that they created a god from it. Find
Testing. 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Hi. We're back.
Testing.
After a little break.
Dipper.
For dinner.
I was told to stop pausing so much, so I'm gonna do
lesser
that.
races
Hi.
feel the burden of their crude lives. We are beyond such concerns or worries. Every power is ours to use, every sensation ours to experience. We are truly masters of the galaxy, and all others exist only to satisfy our curiosities. We have earned our position of power. Let us forever taste the fruits of such achievement. Time itself is ours to command. We are eternal.
Very nice.
The gang dreams of What?
With the birth of Slaanesh, the Eldari Empire ceased to be. A catastrophic event so horrible that the warp ripped a hole permanently in our reality. A fissure forever known as the Eye of Terror. With the sudden inhalation of this god's largest breath, the Eldari souls are a currency to be now collected by she who thirsts. Trillions of Eldar died in an instant. Slaanesh gorging on their souls to satisfy his palate. 99.9% of their entire species died, and the rest are doomed to a fate worse than death. For Slaanesh now stakes a claim on each and every Eldar soul. From the moment they pass on, an eternity of torment awaits them. The remaining Eldar devote their entire lives to stopping this eventuality. Their dying race so devoted to saving themselves from the Dark Prince, and in doing so, have found very creative ways. In the modern world of Warhammer, the craft world Eldar are the main force of Eldar in the galaxy and represent the elf style that many think of when you think elves in space. Fantasy elves in space, not those elves. We'll get to them.
I'm pretty sure the Eldar have not had, like, the Craft World Eldar have not had new models since, like, the late 90s, early 2000s.
Why?
I'm pretty sure I just don't think Games Workshop likes them very much. Have not had new models since, like,
a craft world is a monumentally large starship, the size of a continent, that acts as a form of flotilla. During the highest reaches of hedonism, many Eldar saw the demonic writing on the wall and began to try and seek asylum from their own debauchery. Those Eldar left on monumental craft worlds into the far reaches of the galaxy and saved themselves from Slaaneish's awakening. The main thing the craft world Eldar seek is to temper their minds and bodies in a way that will never allow them to slide back into their old ways. The representation they carry is that of a more feudal Japanese motif. Eldar follow paths as they age, the path of the warrior, the seer, the poet, the diplomat, the bone singer, and so on. These paths are a strict code of conduct to hone the heightened Eldar psychology down a school of thought and action. And if it sounds a hell of a lot like Bushido, well, you're damn right. Here's a medal and a soul stone. Don't lose it or an eternity of torment awaits you. Going through these paths will allow you to take up not just a role in Eldar.
Oh yeah, the Eldar, because Slaanesh has a claim to all their souls, they actually, like, they keep these stones called soul stones, so that when they die, their soul goes into the stone instead of getting eaten by Slaanesh. And then they take the stones, and they actually use the stones to power their craft worlds instead of getting eaten by Slaanesh.
I got stuck on my pant
And then they take
society, but keep your mind clear from the past worries that plagued them. Every Eldar is said to be a psyker, however, very few of them actually utilize their psychic powers for fear of tempting she who thirsts. A large amount of emphasis is also put on ancestors of the Eldar and learning from them the farther you go down a path. This can sometimes be seen by the large variety of jewels adoring the armor of Eldar. Those are called soul stones, the biggest middle finger to Slaanesh they can think of. See, when an Eldar dies, these stones act as a backup, and instead of their souls going to Slaanesh, they are then trapped and stored in this little stone. So when the Eldar say they commune with their ancestors, they mean so very literally, as the spirit and soul of generations before them are stored here. Often, larger structures may contain vast amounts of soul stones, such as the Infinity Circuit in the craft world itself, allowing the souls of the dead to help power their enormous starship. The young do not desire the discipline of the path, but rather their curiosity drives them to try every fruit from the tree.
Xenofaction
Thus,
so far.
it is that so many take the path of wandering or the path of damnation in their first years of adulthood. And so the great tragedy of our kind is played out again and again as the number of our people shrink from generation to generation. These paths, when completed, allow an Eldar to move to the next one, then the next one. However, since this is the grim darkness of the world, many of these paths rely on combat. The Eldar actually had gods at one point. Cain, Vol, Isha, Azaryan, and so on. These gods are aspects of the Eldar pantheon, and while many were killed in Slaanesh's creation, their teachings live on. For some, the strongest devotion to the Eldar gods is to join the Aspect Warriors and embody the wrath of
the
Cain.
Aspect Warriors. The guys I was pointing out at the start that I couldn't remember. That's what they're called, Aspect Warriors.
Their god of war. While guardians of the Eldar craft worlds are more akin to a trained militia, the Aspect Warriors embody a particular variant of the path. Each are led by a Phoenix Lord, a name passed down from generations and embodying the souls of prior Phoenix Lords with each new one. The Howling Banshees, led by Jane Zar, Fugin and his fire dragons, Baharoth and his swooping hawks, or Malgan Ra and his dark reapers. Each Aspect Shrine carries with it the Eldar way of war. Fast, hard-hitting, and incredibly tricksy, for they do not have the numbers to fight in any other way.
Let's unpack how I gift like Santa. Wooden toys, just like a little black dress they
The Craft World Eldar
The only
show
thing
how
you look like
mangled
you'd
an
give
empire
Santa
can
as a
be by
divorce
their
paper.
own actions. They once ruled the galaxy in an honest, non-hyperbolic way, but in the end, they were bested by themselves, and their most prominent remnants are forced to drift aimlessly through the galaxy, trying to save their species from extinction and resist the temptations of she who thirsts. But for some, the party, it's just beginning. Deep within the webway is the city of Kamara. This dark city once existed as a port in the webway that allowed for ease of transport for the Eldar between its various domains. The significance of this city meant that it needed to be a bit more of a neutral territory outside of the jurisdiction of general Eldar law, and therefore it was allowed to self-govern. This did not go well. The Dark City became the hideaway for all manner of sin. The Eldar race slipped into debauchery on a galactic scale that it birthed a god, and this was the city you went to when that wasn't enough for you. The convenience of being so deep within the webway was that it exists as a blind spot to the horrors of the warp. So while the rest of the Eldar fled the downfall of their species, Kamara kept partying. When Slaanesh was birthed, they were saved the worst of it, thanks to them being nice and neatly tucked away inside the webway. But only somewhat. The Dark Prince did not have a grip around their soul, but the tiniest pinky finger, and they were still pulling. But due to their excess hedonism, they found a solution to this problem. If they tormented others, they could temporarily rejuvenate their souls and continue to cheat their inevitable death by placating the Prince of Pleasure. And if they kept this up on the regular, they could effectively become immortal. Thus, the Drukhari were born. Unlike the more stoic elves you see in works of fiction, the Drukhari themselves exist as a sort of analog of the more grim and fiendish elves you find in Norse and European mythology. The Drukhari are soul vampires, but the more basic means to feed are hardly enough to keep them going. This desire to feed is known as the thirst, and to quench it effectively, they have mastered the art of biotechnology and dark sciences to really juice themselves up on the crispy soul sprite from the vending machine called the Galaxy. The majority of Drukhari act as pirates and raiders and slavers. They go into our physical reality and drag people back to Kamara to commit atrocities that go beyond any imaginative torture a human can think of. The Drukhari are organized in various groups throughout the Dark City to accomplish this in a more organized and extremely brutal way. The Cabals act as the main warriors of the city, led by their Archons. Witches and Succubi act as entertainment for Kamara in gladiatorial arenas, and the flesh-crafting homunculus keep the Drukhari alive and discover ever-increasingly more painful ways to torment their ever-increasingly large supply of slaves they are brought. The Dark Eldar see the other inhabitants of the galaxy as little more than cattle, livestock that can be brought to bay or slaughtered at any time. Their fodder, however, is not meat and muscle, but the anguish and despair of the weak. The Dark Eldar do indeed drink blood, but also tears, and most sustaining of all, the raw essence of pain they wring out of their captives. The truth of the matter is that Drukhari sustain themselves on the suffering of others, not just morally, but physically. Kamara is a city rife with backstabbing schemes and murder. It is the worst back alleys of the worst ghettos at the best of times. Nothing is more horrifying to a Drukhari than death, for death will see them in the talons of Slaanesh for an eternity of torment. So they do everything they can to stop this. The homunculi covens regrow dead members from pieces of flesh as bargaining chips. The succubi create grisly gladiatorial spectacles that literally rejuvenate the audience members as captives are murdered for sport. To be captured by the Drukhari is one of, if not the worst fate imaginable in the world of Warhammer 40k. In a universe built on war crimes, they are the most debased war crimers of all time. To be tortured and sacrificed in the gladiatorial arenas is a blessing, for you have escaped the fate of being in the Fleshsmiths control group, or being turned into a living and breathing piece of furniture for an Archon's quarters. In a cruel twist of fate, a newly born Drukhari does not arrive into this world loving torture. It is something they must grow to love. Grow to appreciate the suffering of other beings in order to survive in the world they have been brought into. If they succeed, they become some of the worst monsters in the known galaxy. A dark reflection to the craft worlders, and a taste of what Eldar society was like before the fall. If they do not succeed, they must find purchase elsewhere. Often those will join smaller parts of Eldar society like the Exodites or the Harlequins. Exodites believe in a pre-industrial variant of their society, often retreating to more lush worlds to ride dinosaurs and live off the land. Prehistoric style that I would normally laugh at if they weren't riding dinosaurs like ballers. The Harlequin dancing troupe are a subsect of Eldar that are more than just a little strange. A carnival of dancing jesters that serve the Eldar laughing god of Kegarok. They arrive never when expected and leave just as quickly. Blurs of light carry their footsteps as they dance their foes into a grave. Combat is just as much of a joke as it is a play on bloody murder. They travel and aid many other Eldar and sometimes even humanity for reasons we can never understand. Perhaps one day we would have, were they not stripped of their army book and folded into the Eldari Codex. So I suppose it'll have to stay a mystery, or maybe it was one of Kegarok's master plans to get back at She Who Thirsts and save their species. Who could know? Perhaps it was all a sick and practical joke to Kegarok, and he would just find it very funny to watch me fumble the discussion of one human on a tiny blue planet across the galaxy.
Just inhaling the copium. Hey.
Oh, speaking of.
Hey.
Before the fall of the Eldar, Earth, or Terra, as it's called, was in
moving the
ruin.
mouse.
One man who looks to put the pieces back together. Where did he come from? We don't know. Some say he was the result of early shamans. Some say he is the final old one who escaped their species' genocide. And those that are smartest know the answer is, it doesn't matter. He revealed himself as the Emperor of Mankind, and he was tasked with the most monumental upheaval of humanity possible. The Eldari's warp fluctuations had turned the golden age of humanity into old night. Interstellar travel cut off? Check. An AI uprising? Check. Brand new psychers popping up and not knowing how to handle their powers? Oh, check. Demonic incursions? Check.
Mick.
Thousands of years this occurred, and now the Emperor of Mankind showed himself to put the pieces back together. Unifying Terra under his rule, the Emperor founded the Imperium of Man.
Do you know how much longer we still have to be sitting here?
Fist. He was the supreme leader, and nothing could stand against him.
Yeah, if
he
I go
wished to
back.
remove mankind from the yoke of its former failures, and he knew he would be the best leader they could have because he was right. AI banned, religion banned. You did as the Emperor told you, or his Thunder Warriors would put you in your place. That place often being a grave. Now, Terra was thriving, but humanity needed to reclaim its long-lost brethren scattered across the stars. But to do so, he needed those that could build him a fleet truly meant for the reconquering of the galaxy. And so he turned his attention to the red planet of Mars. Mars and Terra were close allies long before the Unification Wars. Mars was the first world terraformed by humanity and became what would ultimately be the first hive world, an epicenter for industry and technology. The Age of Strife did not treat the red planet kindly, however. Mars was cut off from Terra during this time, and the warp storms that ravaged the planet turned it into an absolute nuclear hellscape. Those who were on the surface were turned into your run-of-the-mill mutant if they even survived the bombings they inflicted on themselves, but others were lucky enough to escape beneath the red sands in powerful fallout shelters. These became their generational habitats, but this resulted in extreme reliance on technology and those who could use it. They began to view the technology keeping them alive less as a technological advancement and more of a divine intervention, with those skilled in it as priests. The Martians began to worship the power of the machine, and this resulted in the formation of the cult Mechanicus, the belief in a holy trinity known as the Three-in-One. The machine god serving as the spirit who gave rise to all technologies known, the motive force, the deity that gives all life its ability to live, and the Omnissiah, a physical manifestation of the machine god itself. This belief began to manifest in them physically as well. What were once humans began to really mess around with the character creator options, and this tech obsession made them view instances of flesh to be weak and spend their lives removing what makes them human and replacing it with mechanical augments. Robotic limbs, glowing eyes, mechadendrite arms. What was once a mass of flesh now looks like the back of a router, and the oldest members of the Mechanicus no longer even look slightly human. In addition to this, cloaked over all of their mechanical appendages are robes that reflect the color of their homeworld, the red robes of the Mechanicus. The cult Mechanicum, now the Adeptus Mechanicus, create a fascinating combination of cultures all birthed into one. Basically, techno-zealot monks. Organic life is the machine god's greatest accomplishment within the scope of the great work. All praise he who is Three-in-One. By giving us life within an organic shell, he presents us with the means and opportunity to improve upon physicality, as is his divine plan. He grants us complex weakness so we might learn metallic strength and ascend to his level of machinic perfection. The Emperor's arrival to Mars was very much a walking in with the pizzas while the room is on fire moment, but to the Mechanicum, they saw his arrival as confirmation of their belief. They took one look at the glowing golden entity that showed up on their doorstep and were like, that's him. That's the guy right there, and they immediately accepted him as the Omnissiah. Obviously, showing up and being called Machine Jesus shortly after wiping out all instances of non-Machine Jesus a little bit beforehand is an instance of capital H heresy, but the Emperor saw the bigger picture. Were they strange with how they rubbed unguents on themselves, burned incense, and prayed to machines for them to work? Sure, but that's a lot of production right there. So the Emperor devised the Treaty of Olympus Mons, a unifying agreement between Terra and Mars, and this union would be permanently etched into the Aquila of the Imperium as the two-headed eagle. One head for Terra, the other for Mars. The forces of the Emperor would be supplied with all the technology and weapons they needed to reunite the scattered remnants of humanity under one banner, and the Mechanicum of Mars would be able to keep doing what they were doing religiously and scientifically so long as they kept up their tithes. This tithe meant total quality control over all technology in the Imperium. Is it a big spaceship? AdMech take care of that. Tanks? AdMech take care of that. The literal bullets in a gun? You guessed it. But unlike the factories of today, the forge worlds of Mars and the creations of the Mechanicum are a bit of a different experience altogether. Instead of a factory on a random given world, the entirety of the planet's surface is dedicated to manufacturing. But that's a little tricky, isn't it? Considering that the usage of Silica Animus, or AI, is a big no-no, and basically the largest affront to their divine machine god possible. Fortunately, there's a really neat alternative that they've come up with.
Why am I watching AI Dwayne Johnson eat
devices that can do anything from manufacturing, maintenance, basic door operation, even just float around like a helpful little drone. It's an extremely easy process too. All you need to do is take a human who is dying or preferably an enemy of the state, most likely that one, and lobotomize them. And then reprogram their brains to do exactly what they tell you. They even got little baby versions of them. Yay!
Yeah, see the babies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are called cherubs.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they literally take a baby, they lobotomize it.
Yeah.
And then
See the babies?
they strap robot parts
those
on
are
it
called
and wings, and
That's disgusting.
now you have a little baby slave that flies around and like carries your ammo.
And then
Yes, very much so.
parts on it and wings.
So now you can rest easy knowing that the entirety of the Imperium, because they outlaw AI and learning new tech is heresy, is run on lobotomized slaves. Whether they deserve it or not is unimportant, and whether they can still keep their consciousness trapped in their own minds is another thing entirely.
Your incompetence is showing.
An excerpt from the servitor creation factories. Naked human beings were standing in a switch-packed line between high fences. The manufactorum produced servitors, but it was more akin to an abattoir than a workshop. Every surface was easily cleanable. Servitors with spray units surgically attached to their backs prowled about, hosing filth from slit drains set into the perfectly smooth, slanted floors. As the line slowly advanced, the people were passed through various scanning devices.
little floating
Most
skull
of them mounted in
with
ugly
a spray
functional
bottle
arches
attached.
that let out a constant series of acceptance chimes.
It's
Occasionally,
got like a pressure
one would
washer.
let out an
That's
angry
nasty.
blare, and the
That's
indicator
nasty.
lumens would flash red. The rejected person was then
spray
swallowed up
bottle
by a
attached.
trapdoor opening beneath their feet. From these pits wafted a
It's got like a
hideous
pressure
stench
washer.
and the grinding sounds of industrial mincers. One rejected man grabbed onto the lip and hung there, arms and hands bloodied, shouting a stream of defiant profanities. Guards lined the grating either side of him and shocked him until he fell. The adepts wouldn't even waste bullets on these people. The trapdoor flipped up, and the next terrified person was ushered forward. Violent metal arms snatched them up and spread-eagled them in the air, and a servitor shearer shaved them all over. At another, they were subjected to a high-pressure counterseptic wash whose chemical stink made me choke from
It was good.
100 feet away. More scanners, more rejects winnowed out. Machines forcibly dressed them in a heavy rubberized garment common to all monotask servitors. These were saggy on them, all one size, until another process force-shrank them to fit their bodies where metal cuffs, sockets, and collars bit into vulnerable flesh. The last few prayers gave way to screams at that point, and even the most stoic shouted in pain. They were ushered over a floor, buzzing with power that made them shriek with every footstep. "What's that for?" I asked. "Follicular inhibitor. To stop their hair from growing," he said. Freaking sweet, Lois! As for their scientific pursuits, the Mechanicum believe in the preservation of knowledge above all, and the quest to expand it. However, as opposed to just innovating and inventing on their own with their vast technological know-how, they believe that it is a form of tech heresy. You see, because of their religious viewpoints on technology itself, they believe that the instruction booklet itself is just as holy as the Lego set it builds, and to innovate on that without the proper written knowledge is to go against the divine word of the machine god itself. All knowledge is already in the universe, you simply need to rediscovering it and attempting to invent something to improve upon divinity is very heretical. Prior to the Age of Strife, humanity was able to populate the stars with devices known as Standard Template Constructs, or STCs. These devices were, as far as we know, supercomputers with the ability to pull up and detail how to create literally anything a startup colony would need. Essentially, they were devices with the entirety of human technological know-how so that you could make a home away from home. The Mechanicum will not make anything without an STC. Quite literally nothing, because this is the knowledge they seek, and that knowledge is divine. One time, scouts of the Imperial Guard found a functioning STC that provided the schematics on a knife that happened to be a bit lighter and a bit sharper than most other knives. These knives were adopted by 30 Space Marine chapters and were one of the most advanced discoveries of the century. This discovery was so significant that they were each awarded a planet for finding this. a planet for a machine that taught them how to make knives. Due to their religious organization, you can probably guess the Mechanicum are organized in a feudal structure with the highest individuals in power being a part of the priesthood. Cream of the crop being the fabricator general of Mars itself, who serves as a High Lord of Terra, but also oversees the entirety of the Mechanicum below. Below them are tech priests that oversee the cult for the quest of knowledge and other more straightforward theocracy. Forged worlds tend to operate slightly more independently, what can cause some power struggles within the Mechanicum, because, you know, despite them all being weird robots, they love being given praise. And despite being the manufacturing end of the Imperium, they do actually have their own military forces. They have the Skitarii Private Army and all their various 1920s Martian-style mechanisms like Doom Crawlers, Castellan robots, and of course, the Titan Legions. Because nothing is cooler than a robot that towers over buildings. Ultimately, their very dogmatic view on technology as a whole has resulted
those that they were showing, those are different from the Imperial Knights. The Titan Legions are knights that are literal cities with legs and a giant city-sized cannon attached to it. That they have literal giant like cathedral doors on the front of their feet, because what they do is they'd walk and then they'd plant their feet and these doors would open and just armies of millions of soldiers would just pour out of their legs. What they do is they walk and then they plant their feet. Hold on, let me see if I can get back to that.
Yeah, that's weird.
See its feet?
Yeah.
How it's giant cathedral doors.
Yes.
And how there's a huge city on its back.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things are freakishly huge.
That's weird.
And they are probably the coolest thing in all of Warhammer.
Weird.
Yeah. Why weird?
Because it looks like he has a little tree trunk on his rear leg.
And they are nah, his legs are like a whole city. And then his back is a whole city. And then there's
so heavy. So heavy to carry around.
Nah, well, I mean, considering this robot itself, this robot is probably the size of New York City.
Damn. So heavy to carry around. He has New York City on it.
Yes. And then those cannons could probably one bullet out of that machine gun is probably the size of a house. And then those cannons, and it probably shoots about 100 of those a minute. Out of that machine gun, it's just a giant minigun. Probably the size of a house.
A robot that towers over buildings. Ultimately, their very dogmatic view on technology as a whole has resulted in any innovation becoming absent, thus causing the Imperium to stagnate as a whole. The lack of ambition to create anything new and the wholesale murder of anyone who even tries leads to things becoming derelict. I grow weary of this flesh I was born into, strangely disgusted by its nature. I crave only the cold, clean certainty of steel and silicon, that I might become one with the blessed machine. I do not expect you to understand, you who cling to your flesh as if it were immortal, seeking only to preserve it, to protect it. One day you will see the folly of your ways, and then no doubt you will come begging to my order to preserve you. After the groundwork had been set unification-wise, it was time to start getting things together for the Emperor's great crusade across the stars to bring humanity under one banner. The Thunder Warriors were a perfect fighting force for unifying Terra and Luna, but the galaxy was a whole different thing. You see, these warriors weren't soldiers in the eyes of the Emperor. They were tools, extremely blunt tools used for the fast conquest of Terra. As the Emperor was concerned, the tools you use at home aren't the same ones you take on a road trip. So the Emperor rid himself of his tools in the exact manner you think he did, and he went forward to crafting a brand new tool. One more mobile, more efficient, and ready for his next era of conquest. They shall be my finest warriors, these men who give of themselves to me. Like clay, I shall mold them, and in the furnace of war forge them. They will be of iron will and steely muscle. In great armor shall I clad them, and with the mightiest guns will they be armed. They will be untouched by plague or disease. No sickness will blight them. They will have tactics, strategies, and machines so that no foe can best them in battle. They will be my bulwark against the terror. They are the defenders of humanity. They are my soul. And they shall know no fear. The vastness of the Milky Way galaxy meant that the Emperor needed assistance bringing everyone back to the fold. And who better to do this than himself? But since the technology to be in many places at once does not exist anymore, the Emperor decided that it was time to become a dad, the same way Geppetto did, and with far less care. It is not my son, Archon. None of them are. They are warlords, generals, tools bred to serve a purpose, just as legions were bred to serve a purpose. What a dad. The Primarch Project was started to create charismatic and unique...
This is actually really funny. I forget which of the Primarchs the Emperor had an interaction with, but one of the Primarchs actually, like, called the referred to the Emperor as their father, and it was like speaking to him as if he were his father. And the Emperor looked at him and said, "I hate you. You're weak. I'm not your father." It was like speaking to him as if he were his father. And then
leaders in the Imperial military. The diversity of these eventual leaders meant that each one could be specialized for certain circumstances across the galaxy. Depending on the type of conflict, one leader might be better than the other. So instead of forcing one leader to acclimate to a situation directly, it would be better to send a specialized leader and force to handle it. In order to do this, the Emperor used his genetic know-how and maybe a little bit of that forbidden stuff to create these genetically perfect gene fathers that had the ability to serve as his analog directly, and also serve as the leaders of the respective Space Marine legions. All 18, that's right, all 19 of his sons were meant to be directly molded by the Emperor himself, despite their genetic differences. And they go as follows in order: Lionel Johnson, Fulgrim, Perturabo, Jagatai Khan, Lehman Russ, Rogel Dorn, Conrad Kurz, Sanguinius, Ferris Manus, Angron, Robute Gilliman, Mortarion, Magnus the Red, Horus Lupercal, Lorgar Aurelian, Vulcan, Corvus Corax, and Alfarius and Omegon. His sons, finalized and crafted to be the warriors he needed them to be, were complete. But he may have decided to do a bit of dabbling with things he shouldn't have, and paid a price. Before the Primarchs were ready to go, an intervention by the gods of chaos prevented his plan from being completed as intended. Though the sources vary, the ultimate result of the Chaos God intervention was that all of the Emperor's tools were scattered throughout the galaxy at unknown places and times. Each one of his sons ended up in a completely different world, and instead of being able to directly influence their upbringing, these children were instead forced to experience the unique nature of their respective homeworlds. Some had a great time and lived in general luxury. Others, not so much. Despite his closest advisor, Malkador the Sigillite, saying, "All right, Chief, let's try this one again," the Emperor sensed each of his sons were still very much alive. And one of...
Yeah, if I remember correctly, pretty much all of the Chaos Primarchs all had awful lives, except for, I think, Magnus.
Dang.
Yeah, if I well, and Lorgar. Well, until the Emperor burned down his city. Lives, except for I think Angron became a gladiator slave. Until the Emperor burned down his city. Death Guard Primarch. Mortarion lived on a planet that had like toxic atmosphere and like sought out to kill his father who lived in the only safe part of the planet. Toxic atmosphere. Yeah, so on and so forth. I think you get the point. all of them had
the primary
sucky
objectives of the
lives.
Great Crusade shifted to reclaiming each of his sons so they could take command of their specific Space Marine legions and carry out his will. These original Space Marine legions that were created alongside their Primarchs go in order: the Dark Angels, Emperor's Children, Iron Warriors, White Scars, Space Wolves, Imperial Fists, Night Lords, Blood Angels, Iron Hands, World Eaters, Ultramarines, Death Guard, whoosh, Thousand Sons, Luna Wolves, eventually Sons of Horus, the Word Bearers, Salamanders, Raven Guard, and the Alpha Legion. Space Marines, unlike their gene fathers, the Primarchs, are not made in a vat. There is a process to recruit more members from humanity itself, which seems a bit strange considering how massive a Space Marine is compared to a normal man, but don't forget, the Emperor is really good with genetics. Less good with anesthetic, however. These prospects are recruited across humanity from various reasons and methods, and are generally killed during that process. But sometimes they aren't, and they are able to go through more and more of the actual training to assess certain traits that are important and relevant to being a Space Marine. Most of the time, the common factor is a pure, unrelenting willingness to kill the enemies of the Imperium. After going through psychological screening, the prospect, now called a neophyte, goes under the knife to become a Space Marine. And here is a quick list of all the cool new stuff they get genuinely shoved into their bodies. A secondary heart, an organ that makes your bones grow, an organ that makes your muscles big, an implant that makes your blood stronger, a little organ that turns your white blood cells into super white blood cells, a brain implant that allows you to sleep while being awake, a pre-stomach that allows you to digest literally anything, a spinal implant that allows you to absorb the genetic memories of what you eat, bigger and better lungs that can let you breathe underwater, an implant
actually a third lung.
That's weird.
They get like, they have their 2 lungs and then they have a smaller third lung that gets split in the middle.
Ew.
Actually a third lung.
That gives you stronger eyes, new ears that keep you from being dizzy, a brain implant that lets you go into suspended animation if you're in a bad shape, skin that acts like transition glasses, I almost got it in one take, a brand new kidney, the ability to taste the air and find enemies like a bloodhound, a special coating on your skin that allows you to be protected in space, the ability to spit acid, a gland that allows you to absorb the unique genetic makeup from the gene seed in the first place, and a straight up carapace that allows the Space Marine to interface with their power armor directly. Quite often, these are put inside of you at...
Yeah, and now, not all the Space Marines function that way. Some of them actually have, they have like genetic mutations that disable some of that stuff. Like the Imperial Fists, for example, they're glands in their mouth that allow the Space Marines to spit acid. They have a genetic deformation that takes that away. They can't use that. And some of the Space Marines work in that way. They have a genetic. I don't know exactly what all of them are. I just, you know, the Imperial Fists are
dubious levels of mental alertness and dubious levels of anesthetic after a more generalized indoctrination into the faith of...
The Space Wolves, if I remember correctly, I think all of their implants work normally, but they just have a genetic mutation that is called the Wolfen, which literally will just, they'll just randomly start like losing their sense of humanity, growing fangs, growing fur, losing their ability to think for themselves, and then just kind of going feral. They'll just randomly start like losing their sense of humanity. So basically becoming a walking human wolf. Losing their ability to think for themselves, and then just kind of going feral. They have werewolves. But I think that's it. I don't know about their implants, what their genetic differences are.
Manners, they can finally be welcomed as a fully fledged Space Marine. A Space Marine is quite literally a walking tank that is armed to the teeth. 2 of the more iconic weapons held by a Space Marine are their bolt gun, which fires explosive shells the size of soda cans, and a chain sword.
Yeah. So the bolter, very common weapon, and as he said, they fire soda can sized explosive rounds. So yeah, shoot that out of a gun and make it explosive. Very common weapon, as he said. They fire soda can sized. It's actually really funny. Rounds. So bolters shoot that out of a gun and make it explosive. Are the most commonly carried weapon by Space Marines. It's actually really funny. But they're actually not meant to fight like heavily armored enemies. They're actually meant to fight they're not meant to fight like, say, like Chaos Space Marines. They're not meant to break that kind of armor. The bolter was designed specifically to deal with non-compliant citizens or civilians. So the bolter is literally made to just blow up civilians.
You're shaking it.
If a non-compliant human gets in your way, it is meant to blow them up.
The Space Marine is clad in a colorful carapace known as power armor, crafted from extremely heavy and durable ceramite. The power armor of a Space Marine protects him from any terrors he may face, be it the void of space itself to an inhospitable atmosphere. This armor, combined almost biologically with an already massive physique, makes the Space Marine an almost unstoppable fighting force. And hell, if the armor doesn't protect them enough, they can always become a walking coffin like the dreadnoughts of the chapters are. What truly adds to it all, however, is the sheer difference in some of them. While a Space Marine in its own right is an indoctrinated freight train on legs, how they act can be quite different from chapter to chapter. The gene seed of a Primarch is not just helping them become big and strong, but allows them to gain certain traits from their forefathers.
This is what I was
Everything from
about.
how they think to even slightly adjusting their physical appearance once it's been implanted. The gene seed can be the personality of an entire Space Marine. Take the Salamanders, for example. Salamanders have a predisposition to fire as a whole, and tend to be extremely large due to the size of their Primarch, Vulcan, and his enormous stature. Whereas someone like Sanguinius, Primarch of the Blood Angels, share more vampiric features and more angel-like qualities. A gene seed is not just aspects of the Primarchs, but they are also flaws too. Magnus the Red and his 1,000 Sons underwent something known as the Flesh Change, a horrifying mutation that, while it made them strong psychers, would affect their bodies so terribly that they would mutate away from humanity. Where other factions have inspiration for their culture from our real world, like the feudal Japanese of the Eldar or Egyptian style of the Necrons, each Space Marine chapter themselves carry an inspiration. The White Scars are motorcycle riding Mongolian fighters. These Space Wolves are Norse Vikings. The Dark Angels are Knights of the Round Table, and so on. This moves into their fighting style, and truthfully, there is no end to the characters and options when it comes to the Space Marines. Space Marines are the main symbol you see, and while many of them can be simply indoctrinated warriors who only care about conflict and can be quite boring, then you meet Dante, or Bjorn, or Argel Tal, or Karn, or Lucius, or Erebus. And then you discover
Erebus. Dante is actually an incredibly cool character. I don't want to drag this out too much, so I'll kind of get to the gist with him. He was a character who, like, Dante his family didn't, well, his father didn't want him to go be a Space Marine, so he ran away from home. Almost died while going to find the Blood Angels until this golden angelic ran away from home, kind of like guardian angel of the Blood Angels called the Sanguinor, showed up and led him to water so he could stay alive. He then made it to the Blood Angels, and he went through all the trials. And by the end of the trials, the hierarchy of the Blood Angels actually said that he was doomed to live a mediocre life and not accomplish anything. And by the end of the trials, he is now the current standing War Master of the Imperium and the oldest living Space Marine in Warhammer 40k at over 1,000 years old.
Damn.
He actually, during the one battle that happened on the Blood Angels' home planet, he died, or was going to die, and when he was dying, he saw Sanguinius and the Sanguinor standing in front of him, and Sanguinius said, you have done an amazing job, you earned this, but I can't let you die yet. You still have more work to do. And now Dante, he's been alive for 1,000 years by the way. He just wants to die. That's all he wants to do. And his Primarch, who's also dead by the way, looked at him as he was about to die and just said, no. That's all he wants to do. And so now Dante is like super depressed, but he's also one of the smartest people in the Imperium, alongside Gilliman. And actually, at least, I don't know if any new lore's come out since this, but the last time I heard of Commander Dante and the lore of Warhammer was he actually got to meet Lionel Johnson for the first time. And Lionel Johnson was actually not happy when he met Dante, because Dante's mask he's wearing is, there's like this traditional thing with the Blood Angels called a death mask, which is you wear a mask, and then when you die, you go through a ceremony that actually like molds the mask to your face, and then they keep the mask. Well, Dante is wearing Sanguinius's death mask. So it has Sanguinius's face from his final moment. So like, Lionel Johnson meets Dante, and Dante is literally wearing the face, the golden face of his dead brother. Lionel Johnson meets Dante, but Dante is an incredibly respectable and the golden face of his smart person, so it didn't end up going violent because he realized who Lionel Johnson was and was very respectful in it. But it super cool character, incredibly cool character. Didn't end up going violent because he realized. Sorry, I just had to go on a rant because Commander Dante is. He's an absolutely amazing and very well-written character.
The wealth of these characters and tools of war you can have. For 1100 years, I have fought and I have seen the darkness in our galaxy. I have seen the vileness of the alien and the heresy of the mutant. I have witnessed the sin of possession, and I have seen all the evil that the galaxy harbors, and I have slain all whose presence defiles the Emperor. I have seen what you will see. I have fought what you must fight, and I have slain what you must slay. So fear not and be proud, for we are the sons of Sanguinius, the protectors of mankind. We are indeed the angels of death. Despite being the poster children for Warhammer 40k as a whole, the presence of a Space Marine is a rare sight for the countless trillions of humans across the galaxy. Seeing one of these monstrosities is like seeing something akin to an angel sent by the Emperor himself. These angels of death are the essential fighting force to bring humanity back under the unified banner of the Imperium. Yet ultimately, the Space Marines are individuals torn from their families.
We'll need to watch this. This is on Amazon.
Genetic modification and lifelong service for the dying Imperium. And though they are held in an almost holy light, most believe they are above and beyond the people they are designed to serve. Once designed as the protectors of humanity, they seldom view humanity as something worth saving. To the extent that it is a tiny, minute rarity, though not unheard of, for a Space Marine to put a normal citizen above them in any way. For most Space Marines and even their Primarchs, they are only here to do a job. They are there to kill the enemies of humanity, and I would be remiss if I didn't add at least one more of my favorite quotes to the tail end of this section. "The time for speeches is done," said Rogel Dorn. "The first great test is here. My order to you all is simple, yet heed it well, and exert yourselves to see it done. They are coming. Kill them all." While the Space Marines are the spearhead of the Imperium's Great Crusade and also a major player in its warfare, there is a significant amount of importance that must be taken on their transport. What sci-fi universe would be complete without its navy? When you think of the navy or ships on the open sea, you think of something that is sleek, something mobile, and something pretty big. For perspective, the longest self-propelled ship in history was the TTCY's Giant, an oil tanker that was about 458 meters long or over about 1,500 feet. This right here is child's play in the world of 40k ships. A ship that is considered to be an escort vessel in the Imperium is about 3 times the size of a CY's Giant, and the size of the ships only go up from there. Your most common ships are the cruisers. The light cruiser tends to average at about 2 kilometers long, or just over a mile in length, where the Dictator class cruisers can be over 3 kilometers or 2 miles in length. The largest ships are your battleships, and they are tremendous. We're talking 5-mile long, half a mile high monstrosities that look like gigantic Gothic cathedrals and filled to the brim with weaponry. And not only are they filled with weapons, but they are also jam-packed with crewmen. Battleships tend to, on average, carry a crew between several thousand to several million, and they need every single one of those members because we don't have advanced technology for other things to pilot themselves or control themselves in a meaningful way because there's no AI. A lot of this stuff has to be done manually. Even the reloading of those giant batteries is a form of manual labor. And, of course, generally speaking, gliding through the stars is a very slow way to do things. And let's be honest, there can't be a science fiction setting without some form of hyperspace travel. This form of travel in 40K is less like going to Plaid in Spaceballs and more like going into Davy Jones' zipper dimension in SpongeBob.
Oh, now what? I suppose you're gonna show me. Oh, gee, that's very nice. Oh, what is this? Some kind of magic act?
This is because it utilizes the immaterial warp to do so. Warp travel is handled by a navigator, which is an abhuman. It's a mutated human, don't worry about it. And they have a gene that gives them a third eye and the ability to help steer the ship through the warp, which, as we know, is hell itself and unreality. Now, this might sound exceptionally dangerous, and that's because it is. Now, the ship does have protection in the form of a Geller field, though. Originally, I assumed the Geller field is what you think it is, a large force field stopping all manner of horrible things, like demons from the warp tearing apart your ship. How wrong I was, though. So space travel through the warp basically involves riding on the Sea of Souls. Hell is real and you can surf on it. So you allow the current to carry you and the navigator to direct. But how can a current of souls and unreality carry you when it doesn't obey the laws of physics, time, or, again, reality? What a Geller field is not a force field, but a comatose imperial psyker dreaming of reality. It is not a bubble. It is a force of reality being projected by mutant sleeping beauty to counteract the unreality of the warp that you can then surf on. This, of course, is not a foolproof method of travel, and Geller fields can and do collapse fairly regularly. Being subjected to the warp itself without this Geller field is a terrifying prospect. In the best case scenario, your ship will be torn to shreds, but there are countless instances of ships being thrown out of the warp randomly throughout time itself. You leave for a 2-day mission and you come back 90 years in the past. Maybe you feel like you're lost in the warp for a century and it's only been 45 minutes. And that is only if the waves of souls don't rip your ship apart or have demons arrive on it to do unspeakable things to the crew. The Imperial Navy is an astronomically powerful force for the Imperium because the sheer volume of ships and guns on those ships create firepower that can sunder planets.
This is the fun kind of learning.
This is all juxtaposed with the sheer backwater nature of these ships. While they are manned by crews of zealots, they are also operated with such a backwater tech, it completely confuses the reader. You see the long batteries of port-side cannons the ship has, and remember that AI is heresy in this world, and that all the mechanics are utilized by lobotomized slaves. So how do they load these? Well, they have gun gangs, massive gangs of hundreds of people manually loading these cannons. These are genuine gun loader gangs that get into gang wars and squabbles. On the ship's bridge, you may find the captain himself hardwired directly into the ship's chair permanently to control it the best they can. Giant screens of hololith data fill the room, and sensors across the ship are just as likely to tell you information as
Can you imagine like the North gun gang gets in a gang war with the Western battery gang?
That'd be so bad.
Like the North gun.
Running up to you with a scroll of parchment is.
I did not know
you reach
that.
to a microphone to shout orders down a hallway as paper readouts tell you information of the enemy, and holy sigils and candlelit incense burners gleam your next move. While the is not a specific faction of the Imperium in the same sense and format of this video, it is what shepherds around the entirety of its armed forces. Every Space Marine Primarch had a flagship, and every strike cruiser and battle barge has a story to tell. But if there is a single thing that the Shield of the Navy does the best, it is to help support and supply the monumental forces of the Imperium. the hammer of the Emperor himself, the uncountable men and women of the... I don't care if these things have adapted to resist our las guns. If we can't kill them with our rifles, then we'll kill them with heavy bolters. And if we can't kill them with heavy weapons, we'll use grenades. And if grenades don't work, then we'll fight them with our swords and our knives and our bare hands. We'll drown them in our blood. That's what it means to be a soldier of the Imperial Guard. Now follow me. Charge! There is no better symbol of the might of the Imperium itself than the Astra Militarum, or as it is commonly known, the Imperial Guard. Though the Space Marines take the glory and stand as the visual representation of the Imperium, their numbers are dramatically thin and specialized in comparison. To reclaim 1,000,000 worlds, you need a countless number of troops willing to fight and die for your cause. The Imperial Guard represents the Imperial truth made manifest. Every year, the worlds of the Imperium pay a tithe in the form of soldiers to fight the good fight of the Emperor, and this number is impossible to pin down. Even saying billions would be a dramatic understatement. The sheer volume of soldiers serves as the fundamental backbone of the Imperium. 99.9% of battles fought by the Imperium are fought by the sundering might of the Imperial Guard. With the knowledge that the Space Marines are essentially sentient tanks, what do the members of the Imperial Guard have? If they're the might of the Emperor himself, are they not suited up in a similar way? No, not really. No fancy suits, no biological enhancements, and basically
like
no
one size
expectation
fits
to
all,
live. Once a
rags,
regiment of guard are
some
activated,
armor,
they
a
are sent
helmet,
directly
knee
into battle with
pads.
almost no
Get
expectations
your
that
las
they
gun and
will
that's it.
survive. This is because, despite their training, their incredibly powerful armor and extremely strong weapons that would crush any army of the modern day, they are so hopelessly outmatched to the things they will face. Sending a member of the guard is throwing a rock at a nuclear bomb. However, where they lack in advancement, they make up for in sheer numbers, and their overwhelming force can be the difference maker in any deployment they face. Quantity is a quality all its own. If they do happen to survive, they will be sent to the next battle and so
right there.
Seldom do members of the Astra Militarum get old or retire, and those that do are truly to be feared. There's an old saying that the average lifespan of a guardsman is about 50.
Oh, really? He's a person, huh? Who is he?
A person.
Okay.
15 hours from deployment, and considering the sheer number.
Which war? Oh, really?
A world war.
Which world war?
A person.
Okay.
Some more.
Lucky guess. Yes.
Number of guardsmen out there in any given battle. That number is
really? What country?
A country.
Lucky guess. What country?
America.
Yes. America. Ladies and gentlemen, what country? Joseph Stalin.
No, not America.
Worked for America in World War II.
No.
Joseph Stalin.
No, not America. Which country?
Worked for America. The Soviet Union? Russia?
No. I knew that. Which country?
Okay, moving on.
When several million of your cool guardsmen die within the first few hours of combat because the orcs threw a moon at you, it can really screw the numbers. The soldiers of the guard are conscripted and trained on an incredible number of worlds in the Imperium, and these worlds can impact their training and their combat style directly. The most famous visually are the Cadian shock troops.
Phenomenon.
But other notable guard factions include the gas mask-clad death corps of Krieg, the Rambo level of Catachan jungle fighters, and the iron-willed Mordian Iron Guard. This also helps them specialize against individual types of enemies. The Indigan Prefects are a special guard regiment that came from a planet whose planetary governor, the leader of the planet, thought it was fun to collect exotic animals, which then crossbreed and then became the giant freight train-sized monsters destroying the planet. So the Indigan Prefects are specialized for big monsters. Hello, Tyranids. One particularly interesting officer in the Guard is the enforcement officer known as the Commissar, and they are one of the more visually striking members of a regiment.
Okay, he could say it, but I want to say it first. Do you know what the Commissar does?
What?
They have one job.
What?
If you step backwards, don't charge, or attempt to flee the battlefield, right? If you're like a Acadian guardsman and you do any of those things, or if you're a civilian who tries to interfere, they have one job and one job alone. Yes. If you try to run away, they kill you. You don't charge in time, they kill you. You run out of ammo and you retreat, they kill you. You're a civilian and you interfere, they kill you.
Try to run away, they kill you.
You did nothing wrong and you were just perfectly fine.
Run out of ammo and you
living your life.
kill you.
He's probably gonna kill you.
They kill you.
You sneezed
nothing wrong
while
and
in formation, he'll probably kill you.
Living your life, he's probably gonna.
Are specialized Imperial officers and act as morale officers. But instead of singing songs to the troops and providing hot meals, the commissars are there to make sure that the members of the regiment continue to fight to the bitter end. If a soldier does not meet the standards of the commissar, the solution is simple. There are trillions of other soldiers out there. We don't really need you. Combat fatigue? Headshot. Concerns about the conflict? Headshot. Fleeing the battlefield? You bet that's a headshot. Considering that these officers tend to be outside of their regiment, feelings on them can be mixed. And in fairness, certain commissars, like the esteemed Ibram Gaunt or Caiaphas Cain, tend to do a bit better with the whole people talking part. Because if, say, you were trying to tell a beefed up Catachan jungle fighter what to do, you might take a mysterious leave of absence inside a carnivorous plant. But no matter what I say, I don't think I can truly convey the sheer might of the Imperial Guard, so I'm gonna get a visual aid. Let's take a look at this image right here, right? This is the cover of the 9th edition Codex for the Astra Militarum, the official cover art. Your eyes may be drawn to the dark and brutal looks of some of the main members on the front and the gigantic orc they are attacking, but zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
There is no floor. There is only people, and behind those people are tanks, and behind those tanks are flying artillery shells. There are 2 enormous transport ships in the sky, and their ramps are down, and on their ramps are more people. The Imperium is described as having 1,000,000 worlds. 1,000,000 worlds. And each one of them gives soldiers to the Imperial Guard for the tithe. On a given battlefield, in a given fight, foot soldiers number in the millions, tanks in the tens of thousands, and you have enough artillery to turn the night sky day. You have walkers and APCs and aircraft and horse cavalry and tanks the size of apartment buildings. You have drop troops and spec ops and rattling snipers and gigantic ogres that can't count to 4, but they can turn you into 4 pieces, and it just doesn't end. Humanity is a horde army, but instead of a horde of bogs or rampaging orcs, it's a living wall of guns. At the end of the day, though he's been ferried through hell on a ship that's 10,000 years old to some godforsaken war-torn rock, though he deployed from high orbit with nothing but a grav chute, though he is one of 10 million men and women snatched from his homeworld to fight a war he barely understands, though he has been given a weapon that fires small suns and may annihilate him as he fires because the knowledge of how it functions has been lost, though his company is supported by tractor tanks that run on anything you can burn, though he wages war against the devouring hive mind, ravenous demons and hordes of hyper-advanced aliens with strange technologies and sorceries he never dreamed existed. No one will remember his sacrifice. There will be no records of his deeds, no glorious parades in his honor, and no remembrance of his name. All he will earn is a shallow, unmarked grave on a forgotten world untold light years from home. Yet for all this thankless sacrifice, a guardsman is a man, just like you. He has no millennia-old genetic engineering, no prophetic leader, no miracles of faith. He has his lasgun, his orders, and those beside him. He is the Imperial Guard, and he will hold the line. In the end, the Astra Militarum, despite fighting for the honor of the Imperium, are their own form of a massive horde army where individuality does not matter. They are merely numbers to the Imperium, and the vast majority of the conflicts they are sent to are attrition-based battles that gain virtually no ground while countless millions die. Yet this makes them the most human. For the Imperial Guard contains normal people, people who are happy and sad, people who laugh and love, and in there are stories, because there is strength in facing the horrors of the universe head-on with nothing but a rifle in your hands and a prayer on your lips. Armed with an innumerable amount of Imperial soldiers and Space Marines, the Navy begins its great crusade into the stars to rescue the stranded Primarchs and reunite them to their legions. But the biggest question needed to be asked was, what would they find? The age of strife lasted for thousands of years. If a civilization was still alive out there in the galaxy, what would they be like? The technological advancements of humanity prior to and during the Dark Age technology was unfathomable. It allowed them to spread through the galaxy with ease and allowed them to settle once inhospitable planets. These branches of humanity were provided with the vast knowledge of human creations and were given gigantic machines to make arduous labor and ease. The spreading of these massive colony ships was known as the Long March, and these ships would be retrofitted into settlements upon arrival to their new homes. Accompanying them were the gigantic pieces of farm equipment that served multiple purposes and the specialized pilots that could maintain them. They were not only able to tend the fields and do labor, but when interstellar communication was cut off, they also did a great job of protecting the colonists against both threats demonic and alien. Because of the significance of these machines, those that could pilot them were powerful enough to be considered leaders, and the upkeep and preservation of the machines and the lineage of those who could pilot them was imperative. These machines, over the thousands of years, would eventually be known as the... He must be humble of heart, strong of arm, be savage in war, loyal to hearth, and follow deeds of glory. He must keep honor with all, banish cowardice from his doings, and bring his house no shame. He must serve the Emperor and defend the Imperium, thus should a knight rule himself. The Age of Strife caused these colonized worlds to be cut off from the Imperium, and the reversion of these worlds resulted in the reverence for this farm equipment turned feudal, and the leadership that controlled the devices became viewed as a noble hierarchy. During the Age of Strife, exploratory fleets from Mars found plenty of these worlds, and it seemed the majority of them reverted to a similar state. Like King Arthur seeing Merlin himself, these feudal worlds welcomed the tech priests of Mars with open arms. The mutual relationship between the Admech and the nobility was beneficial. The Admech were able to secure more worlds for mining resources and potentially long-lost STC information, and the noble houses were provided with technological know-how and modifications from the Admech themselves. The suits became more and more specialized, and their history as mere pieces of equipment were lost to time. What was once a tractor became a killdozer, and the Imperial Knights were born. Unlike other military aspects in the Imperium, the nobility of the Knight houses remains just...
See what I mean, though? Look at it. Look at its left arm. That is a giant chainsaw. And that is a cannon. The size of a house. And that is also a cannon. Because just in case that one didn't blow you up, that one will.
A nobility-focused feudal hierarchy that swears fealty.
Oh, and I didn't even point out the machine gun underneath the cannon.
To either the Mechanicum or to Terra. Like the knights in our history, once they swear fealty, they can be called to aid their respective allegiance in the heat of battle. The ones that swear fealty to Terra are led by the High Monarch, while the ones with the Mechanicum are led by the Princeps. The ones with Terra might be sent directly to the front line of war, while the ones with the Mechanicum tend to be sent to protect the Forge world. And the heraldry of these houses is what you'd expect from a generic history of knights. Houses pledging allegiances here and there, your run-of-the-mill War of the Roses aesthetic. Except instead of ponies, you have gigantic death machines. These knights can't seem to be piloted by any old person, however. A member of the nobility of any given knight house must go through the ritual of becoming. This ritual involves them sitting on the device used to control the knight, known as the Throne Mechanicum, for a full night. What's wrong with that? I mean, sitting in a chair for a full evening sounds pretty great right about now. So, a pilot cannot drive a knight. They can, but it moves about as effective as Ripley from Aliens 2, big lifter thing. It is, in a sense, a beast that must be controlled, and a pilot must merge with it. The mind of the noble is connected to the machine and must fight with the mental signatures and personalities of the prior pilots as well. Everything a knight experiences in battle is felt by the pilot themselves, be it the general movement in the battlefield or damage sustained by the machine itself. If a knight's leg is blown off in battle, the pilot could experience a broken bone in the same spot. The merging to the machine forever changes the mentality of the noble that experiences it. This connection reinforces a strong degree of nobility and honor in the pilot, and a desire to fight for the glory of their house until the bitter end, as their ancestors' minds are linked directly to the knight. The size of these knights can vary, but generally speaking, they stand in the ballpark of 30 to 50 feet tall and are protected by a thick adamantium armor. Beyond that, they have their own unique ion shield generators that give them added protection, and when it comes to their looks, the most common pattern across the Imperium is the Questoris pattern, and is honestly the one you're probably thinking about right now. But there are also smaller versions like Armigers and bigger ones known as the Dominus. As for a loadout, these guys are essentially a violent Mr. Potato Head. Battle cannons, Gatling cannons, heavy flamers, thermal cannons, up close and personal, how about a gigantic chainsword or a straight up gauntlet? And for that empty spot up top, screw it. More autocannons, maybe add some missiles. Whatever you can do to make it as over the top as possible, you gotta do it. A squire serves a knight serves a lord serves a baron, and a baron serves a monarch. So who does the monarch serve? He serves every subject, from the rudest serf to the members of the court. Chivalric fealty, when ideally practiced, is not a pyramid, but a circle. Ironically, on the surface, night worlds themselves are one of the least grim dark settings in the galaxy. Reverting to an ancient time with knights and peasants is almost an escapism from the techno hell of the modern Imperium. But this, of course, doesn't make it great for everyone. It sounds fun on paper to play a game of knights, but it's not so fun when you're the peasant of that world. For the knights themselves, the knights give their entire lives to the throne mechanicum, and their reality is not their own, as they have to hear the voices of thousands of generations of their ancestors controlling their actions and their lives for as long as they live. It's a strange dichotomy. When it comes to Warhammer, most to all jobs tend to be terrible. However, if there was one that could be considered enjoyable, it would be the pilot of a knight, or a princeps of their larger cousins. While it does contain an egregious amount of hardship to be a knight pilot, you do enjoy a wealth of privilege. A knight pilot is often an asshole who can back it up. The rich noble that, despite his braggadocious behavior, is still very much him, and he will continue to be him. But knights are not the only thing that the Imperium found lost in the stars during their Great Crusade. Due to the circumstances of the Age of Strife, humans were changing and adapting to their new homes they were now isolated on. Some of these humans evolved over thousands of years to adapt to these areas, and they were known as abhumans. Many abhumans found their way into the Imperial Guard or other lesser positions in the Imperium if they were not wiped out immediately for being too different from their human counterparts. But their abilities and appearance vary from planet to planet, and one particular group of abhumans have made quite a name for themselves in the center of the galaxy. The origins of what will be known as the Kin start at some point during the Dark Age technology, where their ancestors left a planet that is very much Terra and went to the galactic core to mine it of its resources. They brought along with them everything that they would need for a long-term stay, most important of which were the incredible AI-based supercomputers. Be it guidance, technical or philosophical, schematics, or the ability to upload the memories of a deceased explorer to gather information from them, these computers became an essential part of their everyday life, especially considering that the galactic core is one of the most inhospitable places in the galaxy. It is an exceptionally star-dense location, full of abnormalities, black holes, and sentient hostile nebula. Whatever that last part means, it is not a safe and easy place to make a living, and this only got worse thanks to the warp storms during the Age of Strife. In order to adapt to this area, these travelers perfected a genetic makeup that made their future clones to be more adept to the area. These future clones would be shorter and more robust than their ancestors, and the need to procreate would be unnecessary because why risk messing up a good employee when you can just make a new one? These would be known as the squats, and they would all die, except for when they didn't. and now they are known by a different name. Most void-faring races have at least one cautionary tale of foolish explorers vanishing amidst its blazing stellar nurseries and strange anomalies. Yet for the leagues of Voton, the galactic core has been home now for millennia. These squat humanoids would begin to establish themselves in the core, and their goals would be the same as their ancestors. Rock and stone! But like, actually kinda, yeah. Whenever one of them would die, they would know that that sucker would need to be uploaded to the machines like their forefathers did. But the original purpose of these machines was lost to time. What was once a technical resource for them turned into a ritual known as joining the ancestors. And the fact that they were clones at this point meant that the same copy of the same individual would be uploaded countlessly. The sheer overuse of these computers and the repeated uploading of redundant data has turned these once powerful supercomputers into your parents' computer after you installed LimeWire on it, and whose 50 Google Chrome tabs definitely contain information they will return to one day. So much corruption that these computers began to develop the makings of a personality of their own. These would be known as the Voton, and the kin, this dwarf-like abhuman of humanity, would revere them. The Voton still operate to this day, but the volume of corruption have made anything outside of their very basic functions highly unpredictable. They may not answer a question for centuries at a time, and if they do provide an answer or data, it has become so corrupted and so incongruent that it takes a literal kin wizard to comprehend it. The kin, much like the dwarves of fantasy, exists nowadays as a mercantile species that constantly work to mine and manufacture. However, their capitalistic desires are dangerous. The biggest crimes a kin can face are being lazy, unproductive, and breaking a contract. Stellar conflicts have broken out over hundreds of years due to the breaking of a deal. So if you sign a contract with a kin, you best stick to it. Because of this, the kin have been known to interact with other species in a fairly common manner. This includes humanity, who have met various members of the kin multiple times, but constantly considered them to be all a different species. Famously, the Imperium noted that the kin they referred to as the Squats were their own species and were wiped out by the Tyranids. Little did they know, they were still around. The kin are acutely aware of two things. The first is that the humans of the Imperium are deeply terrified of technology, so the sheer existence of the Voton is a secret as well as the truth. This extends also to the Iron Kin, sentient robots that are treated in the same esteem of flesh and blood kin, because kin is kin. The second thing they are aware of is where they're from. They are fairly confident that they are from Terra, and they know that if this secret was to be known by the Imperium, that the Imperium might want to take ownership of them and everything they've built. So the more alien they are, the better. Now, this sounds fine and good, right? What could possibly be wrong with these guys besides the hyper late-stage space capitalism? Well, we have to go back to their creation. The kin are an entirely clone-based race, made from the computers that are exceptionally difficult to recreate. These machines, the Voton, are becoming more and more unpredictable and derelict. If anything were to happen to these machines, it would be a twofold ending of the kin. New kin cannot be reproduced, reducing their numbers, and the existing kin would have no further purpose, because the end that awaits them would be non-existent. The horror of the kin civilization is that the entire purpose of their lives is to do the best they can at their duty and upload all they know to the Voton, their ancestor cores, join their ancestors. But doing so is actually the thing that is killing these supercomputers in the first place. The ancestors were dead, but through the first truths their legacy continued. And though their eyes had shut long ago, indeed the ancestors were watching, not with a gaze from eons gone, but with the eyes of every living kin. Each generation was the embodiment of the ancestors cast anew by the Voton. The galaxy changed. Stars died, planets were destroyed, and civilizations fell. But as long as the Voton endured, the ancestors still lived. I do want to end this last bit with an enjoyable quote from one Kim. As you may have assumed, the Leagues of Voton are space dwarves with a corporate sci-fi motif, but they are still very much dwarves. They're squat, they're strong as hell, and they hold serious grudges. This time it's just more about your contracts than anything else. And so because of this, they might treat most things about how you would expect a capitalistic dwarf would treat things. You misunderstand, human. I am not here to debate. I am not here to compromise. What you see as yours, I am taking for my kindred. You want to bargain? Tariq, unholster our means of negotiation. As the Great Crusade continued, humanity would find their missing Primarchs, reestablish the locations of all of their various worlds, and finally reclaim what the Emperor was always hoping for. But eventually, all the Emperor sought to build would be his undoing. His original attempt to have all the Primarchs lead his great armies and usher humanity into the better ages would end up crumbling down. And we will learn about how the Imperium backslides and the horror of the modern day of 40k in part 2. I will see you very soon.
Yes, there
Thank
is
you
a
so
part
much for
2.
watching.
I'm not watching the part 2.
I don't even know how long the part 2 is. An hour 32. I think that's all. This has been... We are just shy of 3 hours on the recording.
And it's 4:52 p.m.
That was a lot to cram into one video. That was kind of hard to react to. That was just too much for too little time.
Yeah.
One video.
So anyway,
That was kind of hard to react.
thank you guys for watching. If you, by some miracle, found yourself making it to the end.
Anyway. Thank you
If you made it to the end,
Comment.
let me know you're here. And I love you.
Comment a lizard
If you made it to
if you made it this far.
You made it to the end.
let me know you're here.
Comment a lizard at the end of your comment to let us know you watched the whole thing. If not, you're not a real one. Anyway, do comment down below. I loved reading your guys' on the last video. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in this one, because unfortunately there wasn't as much conversation as I'd like to have, because this was a lot crammed into a little. So, unfortunately that's just how it is. So, thank you guys. Peace.